Silence is the only sound for the remainder of the ride, leaving the window beside me to be my only source of entertainment. We pass dozens of streets crowded with smiling strangers, all waving and gawking. Some cheer and run next to the coach as we pass, trying to get a glimpse of us before we roll away to our dooms. As we get closer to the palace, the houses grow larger, finer, and the streets are no longer riddled with homeless shuffling about. I spot the tips of the daunting towers before the whole daunting palace comes into view below them. It's huge. Even with its gray stone and cold exterior, it's breathtaking. Grassy hills and vibrant gardens filled with brightly colored flowers I didn't even know existed surround the castle walls, softening the intimidating structure. I hear the clopping of hooves hammering against smooth stone as we head into a courtyard, passing a large fountain residing in the center, while white statues scatter around its perimeter. When the coach finally slows to a stop, I peek through the window to see a large stone staircase leading into the palace and surrounded by beds of flowers. The Imperials hop from their cushioned perch and open the doors to the coach, allowing warm sunlight to pour into our small compartment. I practically tumble out in my hurry to escape the cramped coach and the company inside. Once my feet are on solid ground again and swallowed by open air, I take a deep breath, inhaling the sweet scent of flowers and sunshine. The other two stumble out to stand beside me, both wide-eyed and staring. A voice startles us from our gawking when the red-haired Imperial clears his throat and says, "Follow me." We file up the stone steps behind him, passing dozens of Imperials lining the staircase. When we reach the top, 2 more guards step out and join the redhead leading us before walking through the giant doors. If the outside was beautiful, it pales in comparison to this. Every wall is ornately decorated with glittering paintings and intricate molding that climbs up the walls and clings to the ceiling. Everything is dazzlingly white, with the occasional pop of emerald that dots the hallways we trudge down, showcasing Ilya's kingdom color. I'm too mesmerized by the sheer size and beauty of this place to even realize that the redhead is speaking to the 3 of us. Rooms are this way, in the east wing of the palace. He gestures to the many hallways that I'm assuming are filled with equally embellished rooms. He suddenly spins on his heel to turn and face us, forcing me to skid to a stop before I nearly crash into his chest. The next 2 weeks will consist of training, meeting the other contestants, interviews, and the first ball, and every week between each trial will follow the same routine. An Imperial will be assigned to you for remainder of your stay here, and they will escort you to and from anywhere you need to be until you are acquainted with the castle. One of the Imperials standing behind us moves beside Hera, while the other takes his place next to Ace. Well, the young Imperial claps his hands in front of him with a sigh. We will show you your rooms and let you get situated. When Hera and Ace have rounded the corner at the end of the hall, I turn to my personal Imperial. "So, you'll be keeping an eye on me then?" "Lucky me." He chuckles and turns, motioning for me to follow. "I'm Lenny, by the way. I never thought I'd say this to an Imperial, but it's nice to meet you, Lenny." Clamping my mouth shut before anything else I shouldn't be saying spews out. I pick up my pace and try to catch up with his long strides. "Yeah, well, I don't blame you. Most Imperials can be." He rubs the back of his neck, searching for the right word. "Pigs?" I mutter before I can think better of it. He cuts off his laugh with a quick clearing of his throat. "Yeah, they have me do a lot of the talking around here. I guess I'm not as intimidating." I swiftly look him up and down, unable to help but agree. His messy red hair combined with the explosion of freckles splattering out from under his mask diminish any hope of looking threatening. He stops in front of a door near the end of a long hallway before pushing it open and gesturing inside. I bite my tongue to keep from gasping at the sight of the most beautiful room I've ever seen. Filled with bookcases, a dainty vanity, a writing desk, And a bed. An enormous bed. After sleeping on jagged cobblestone for 5 years, the thought of getting to sleep on that is overwhelming. I blink in amazement as I finally take a step inside. The carpet is plush beneath my feet, and I spin to see a bathroom peeking out behind a door to the left. I stride towards it, fighting my smile when I see a pristine porcelain bathtub, sitting atop golden legs, hot, running water. An equally shiny toilet and sink sit on the white, marble floor to complete the set. I slowly step out of the bathroom, still staring at the bedroom before me. Out of the corner of my eye, I can see Lenny watching me, amused by my awe. "I hope you find your room to be satisfactory?" "Oh, it'll have to do, I suppose." I plop onto my bed as I say it, sarcasm dripping from the words. "Well, I'll let you get comfortable, seeing that you'll be spending a lot of time in here," he says, turning to step out the door. "What do you mean by that?" He rubs his hand over the back of his neck with a sigh. "You'll find out soon enough." Lenny was right to tell me to get comfortable. I've been trapped in this room for 2 days. It's become my personal gilded cage, locking me in with luxuries. The guards stationed outside my door don't deem me important enough to grumble more than a few words about following orders by keeping me confined to my room. So I've scoured every inch of the chamber, occupying myself by thumbing through books, soaking in hot baths, devouring delicious meals. And yet, I've never felt more anxious. The inside of my cheek is sore, the result of incessant biting in an attempt to calm my nerves. And despite sleeping in a soft bed for the first time in years, I'm restless. I haven't spoken to anyone since my first day here, haven't even been told what the hell is going on. I've been left to pace the padded floor, worrying over who my opponents are and what they can do. Mind games, that's what this is. The king likely finds this comical, loves the idea of us anxious, restless, and trapped in our rooms until he says otherwise. This is meant to set us on edge, make us antsy. A knock at the door has me pausing my pacing. Lenny's head peeks around the doorframe, a sheepish grin on his face. "So, how are you, Paedyn?" I blink at him. How am I? How am I? He creeps farther into the room, his next words slow. "Okay. So, I'm getting the feeling that you're not great." My laugh is bitter. "You could say that. It's been 2 days. Where the hell have you been?" The king likes to keep the contestants completely isolated for the first couple of days, he says stiffly. "But, good news. You'll be having dinner tonight with the other contestants, along with the king and queen." I swallow. After 48 restless hours, I'm suddenly going to meet the contestants that have plagued my thoughts, and the king who has plagued my nightmares. "I'll be back shortly to escort you to dinner," Lenny says, turning towards the door. "If you need anything, just holler. I won't be far." "Oh," he glances at me over his shoulder. "And you might want to change before dinner." When he's gone, I slip into the bathroom and fiddle with the various knobs on the tub until hot, steaming water begins pouring out. Within minutes, I'm stripped and soaking in the now foamy water, thanks to the unnecessary amount of soaps and salts I dumped in. I scrub my hair and body vigorously, leaving my skin red and refreshed. I haven't felt so clean in years. My mind wanders to my many worries, the warm water doing little to soothe me. The trials consume my thoughts, reminding me of the power I lack and the little protection I possess. Not to mention that if the trials don't kill me, being discovered as an ordinary most definitely will. I soak in the bubbly water until it grows cold like the baths I'm so used to. When I finally muster the strength to force myself out of the tub, I'm shivering as I slip on a silk green robe. I make my way back into my room, opening the white doors of the giant wardrobe across from my bed to stare at the dozens of colors and patterns, all hung neatly on a rack. Attire for every type of occasion is casually hanging there, all at my disposal. Adana would die if she saw this. I stare blankly at the clothes, then down at my ratty ones lying forgotten on the floor. I haven't the slightest idea of what is appropriate to wear to this dinner, and I would rather not make a fool out of myself before the trials have even begun. Remembering that Lenny said to holler if I needed anything, I intend to do just that. I'm sure the Imperial has witnessed several of these meals and will have some idea of what the expected attire is. I stride to the door and wrench it open, looking down as I tighten the tie of my robe. I do, in fact, holler, "Lenny, what the hell am I supposed to wear?" And then I look up. My eyes meet wide, bright green ones. I've never seen the man standing before me. I would have remembered. His messy, dirty blonde hair looks slightly damp, as if he too just got out of the bath. He has simultaneously strong yet delicate features, with his straight nose and soft lips. His hand is raised, still posed to knock on my door. He recovers faster than I do. Wardrobe problems? His mouth twists into a playful grin, and something about it seems so familiar, and yet not at all. "Clearly," I say with a small smile. His eyes quickly sweep over me, and only then do I remember that I'm wearing a robe. I pull it tighter around myself, fighting my flush. He clears his throat. "Well, no need to worry. Your maid, Ellie, will be in soon to help you dress and prepare for dinner." He speaks with an air of authority, as though he is used to giving orders. Despite his plain clothes, slim black trousers, and a tighter green shirt that shows off his lean figure, I know right away that this man is no servant. A contestant? At the thought of having a maid wait on me, I quickly say, "That won't be necessary. I can take care of myself, thank you." His gaze travels from my still dripping and tangled hair to the silk robe I clutch closed. "Clearly," he says, mimicking my response to him only moments ago with that oddly familiar grin on his face. I look down at myself and nearly laugh. Okay, perhaps a maid will be necessary after all. He laughs softly before gesturing to the room behind me. I just stopped by to see if everything was adequate. I find myself almost laughing once again. If this is adequate, I can't even imagine what is considered exquisite around here. His eyes search mine, then remind me to show you the gardens sometime. He offers me a nod. "I look forward to seeing you at dinner, Paedyn." I blink at him. "Strange," I say slowly. "I don't remember telling you my name." "Oh, you didn't need to." That crooked grin is teasing his lips once again. I make it my business to know all the pretty girls who saved my little brother. "Plagues. I'm Kit, by the way." He flashes me a grin before turning to stride down the hallway, leaving me shocked and staring. Prince Kit. As in future king of Ilya Kit. What is it with me running into royals? I had never seen the future king before, and I definitely never thought I'd meet him in a robe. He's the heir to the throne, the next ruler who is ready to follow in his vile father's footsteps. Between him and his brother. That's why his smile looked so familiar. I've seen a variation of it on the other prince's face, though Kit's was bright and boyish while Kai's was cockier, colder. I watch as a small, dark-haired girl steps shyly up to my room with a timid smile tipping her lips. "Good evening, miss. I'll be your maid while you're here at the palace, and I'll assist you with anything you may need." Her voice is soft and delicate, but her rehearsed words are steady. "Please, call me Paedyn." She looks at me warily, but I press on. "Plagues, a few hours ago I was sleeping in some garbage, so trust me when I say you shouldn't call me miss." She fights a laugh at that, nodding slowly in agreement. "Great," I sigh. "Now that that's settled, can you help me figure out what it is I'm supposed to wear tonight?" She smiles shyly at me, looking relieved. "That, I think I can help with. We spend the next half hour filtering through outfits before settling on something relatively plain by the palace's standards, though it's still the nicest thing I've ever worn. With half the wardrobe emptied onto the floor, we've decided on a pair of shiny black leggings paired with a silky, dark green blouse. It's relatively low with drooping sleeves I already know will be accidentally dipped in food. I slip a small dagger into the back band of my pants, and the flat blade against my back is cool and comforting. After lacing up high boots, Ellie motions me over to the vanity, where she begins playing with my hair, trying to make the damp mop look presentable. "So, Paedyn," she emphasizes my name with a small smile, "do you have any idea what the trials will be like?" "Not a clue." I give her a pleading smile through the mirror. "I was hoping you would, though, seeing that I'm sure you overhear a lot in the palace." Her next words are little more than a murmur. All I know is that this year is supposed to be different. "Different?" I echo. "In what way?" She shrugs, fistfuls of my hair grasped in her hands. "I don't know. Just different somehow." I struggle to see how a trial could be different, seeing that each one is as bloody and brutal as the last. But the little information makes me feel even more unprepared for what is to come, and I try not to dwell on the unease curling in my gut. Ellie soon gives up on my hair with a huff, deciding to let it lay limply down my back. She then adds powder to my face before smearing a bit of black onto my lashes. "There," she says, studying me. "No more looking like you slept in garbage this morning." I snort. "Plagues, aren't you coming out of your shell?" She reddens before a knock on the door has her scurrying up to answer it. Lenny looks down at her and smiles, only causing her flush to deepen. "Ready to go, Paedyn?" He drags his eyes from Ellie to meet mine. When I meet him in the hallway, we begin our walk down the intricately decorated halls. As we zigzag through the maze that is the castle, I try my best to make a mental map of the layout. One left, two rights, another left. We are soon back in the large entry hallway that stretches to the even larger doors we first entered, though 2 days ago. Lenny leads me to another pair of ceiling-to-floor doors a little further down the wide corridor as he murmurs, "The throne room. This is where you'll be having your meals with the other contestants." Before I have a chance to spout off questions, he nods to the guards standing nearby, silently ordering them to push open the looming door. And at first, no one seems to notice me. They are all sitting around a long wooden table at the center of the marble floor, so at odds with the delicate beauty of the throne room. As for the elites surrounding it, they talk comfortably to one another, seeing that many of them likely grew up together. I take a deep breath and begin walking slowly towards the table. 8 pairs of eyes flick in my direction, looking me up and down as I make my way over to them. Of course, I'm the last one to show up. I pull out a chair at the end of the table next to Ace, reluctant to sit beside him, but relieved to be seated so everyone can stop staring. Except that they don't. I feel their gazes and look up, unable to stop words from tumbling out of my mouth. "So, what's for dinner?" I let out a sigh of relief when the girl sitting on the other side of Ace snorts and leans over the table to look at me. Her bob of wine-red hair shines in the late afternoon sunlight streaming through the window, competing with the shiny silver hoop in her nose. I keep asking the same question. Her honey eyes seem to glitter with mischief. "I'm Andy." "I'm Paedyn," I say, offering her a small smile. "Well, if we're making introductions," a deep voice carries from the other end of the table. "I'm Braxton." I look up to see a huge, dark-skinned boy tipping his head towards me. I nod at him as a higher male voice calls out, "I'm Jax." I look down the table at him, taking in his shy smile. Names are now being shouted across the table. Other than Hera and Ace, who came from the slums, it's obvious that everyone else is well acquainted. "I'm Sadie." I turn towards the voice to see a girl with warm skin studying me. Her stare is assessing, curious. The girl beside her tips her chin up and clears her throat, drawing my attention her way. "Blair, pleasure to meet you, Paedyn." She spits out the words like they leave a vile taste in her mouth, all while looking down at me like I'm something sticky on the bottom of her boot. I get the immediate impression that this girl wants nothing to do with mundanes, let alone anyone who calls the slums their home. Her lilac hair spills over her shoulders, contrasting against the brown eyes glaring at me. She's stunning, yet startlingly cold. "The pleasure is all mine, Blair," I say coolly. The hungry look in her eyes makes me feel as if I'm going to be her next meal. And then a deep and annoyingly amused voice comes from the end of the table, directly across from me. "And I'm Kai. But you already knew that." She's here. Kit was howling with laughter when he discovered exactly who Paedyn Gray was. Though, a flick of one of my knives shut him up real quick. But even while raising his hands in surrender, he couldn't stop babbling about how funny the whole situation was. And he's right. It is laughable. The psychic girl who unwittingly saved a prince she clearly couldn't care less about is now rewarded for it by being forced into trials that could kill her. And now she's sitting right in front of me. After washing my body of the sweat and blood that accompanies a long day of training and torturing, I made my way to the throne room. Soon after, Braxton shuffled in, followed by Jax, who's still bouncing with excitement. The rest of the familiar group followed shortly after, along with a boy and girl I hadn't recognized, the ones from the slums. The seats around the table filled up, leaving the two at the head for the king and queen and one beside me for Kit. But right as we all get comfortable and begin idle conversations about the same regurgitated conversations we've spoken of for years, something happens. She walks in, taking the seat across from me, not even glancing in my direction. She says, "So, what's for dinner?" She speaks confidently, even as her fingers fidget, spinning the ring on her thumb. Interesting. Introductions are quickly exchanged between Andy, Braxton, Jax, Sadie, Blair, and the newcomers Ace and Hera. And yet she still hasn't even bothered to look at me. That just won't do. "And I'm Kai. But you already knew that." That finally gets her attention. The corner of my mouth twitches with the ghost of a smile when her eyes lock with mine. Her lashes are darkened with makeup, contrasting against the bright blue of her gaze. Soft, silver waves tumble over her shoulders and into her face, and I have the sudden and annoying urge to push the strands out of her eyes, if only so I can see them better. Yes, unfortunately, I did already know that. Her soft smile is in total contrast to the sharpness of her gaze. Our eyes snap to the large doors when they groan open, my attention now fixed on father and mother striding through them. No, the king and queen striding through them, looking every bit the part. They glitter in the sunlight that streams from the huge windows surrounding the throne room, light reflecting off their crowns and jewels as they make their way to the table. I'm used to this formality. The king in a fine suit, while the queen shimmers in an elegant dress. Father looking stern and severe, while mother looks serene with her shining smile. Kit follows behind them, looking casual and yet every bit the future king. His gaze finds mine before flicking to Paedyn with a knowing smile on his lips. He takes the seat beside me as the king pulls out one of the heavy wooden chairs for his queen. "Welcome to the 6th ever Purging Trials," he booms down the table. Mother sweeps a strand of black hair out of her eyes, saying, "And congratulations to all of you for making it here." "It is an honor to be chosen," Father says. "An honor to your kingdom, your family, and yourself." He repeats the words that have been drilled into my head since before I could understand them. "I suggest you spend your time wisely to prepare for the trials. You never know what might be thrown at you." His eyes land on me, silently, and less than subtlety, reminding me of my mission to win. I would urge you to use your remaining time before the first trial, as well as each week in between the next ones, to train. And to watch your opponents train. I can almost see the unspoken words in his eyes. Knowing how your competition fights, learning how to read their movements and maneuvers, could be the difference between life and death, as well as practicing your dance steps, Mother says warmly, as she's always enjoying the balls far more than the bloodshed of the trials. Father smiles at his wife. It's a genuine gesture, the kind he only gives away to her. Enough talk of the trials. Let's eat. And with that, the procession of servants begins, all carrying steaming trays to the table. Dozens of dishes piled high with food are set before us. Seasoned turkey and heaps of beans are being shoveled onto plates. Gail herself brings out a tray of gooey, sticky buns, setting them before Kit and me to tease the two of us. I give her a quick wink as she walks away, rolling her eyes at me before bustling out of the room. Kit and I talk idly as we pass trays of food around, shooing away servants when they offer to serve us. I'm in the middle of piling turkey onto my plate when my eyes snag on Paedyn, sitting rigidly across from me. Her jaw is locked tight, as if she's trying her hardest not to let it fall open. Curious, I look down the table at Hera, who is wearing a similar look of awe on her face. Even Ace, who seemed to be the better off of the three, can't help but silently stare at the amount of food placed before us. My gaze slides back to Paedyn, who's too busy blinking to bother eating. I can only imagine what is going through her head. Probably something along the lines of how disgusted she is at the amount of food we waste, while she barely had enough to survive. As I look at the masked anger growing on her face, something tells me she'd rather go hungry tonight. And that won't do. Just because we are competing against each other doesn't mean I want to beat her by default, due to her starving to death. So, I stab a piece of turkey with my fork, reach across the table, and plop it onto her plate. Her eyes snap to mine, her face a cross between annoyance and shock. "Do you like beans?" I ask casually, and when she doesn't answer, I pile them onto her plate anyway. Well, I guess I'll find out. I lean over the table, adding potatoes to the growing pile of food on her plate, as I murmur, "Are you going to make me spoon feed you too? Or can you handle feeding yourself?" With that, I smile at her in a way that will undoubtedly make her want to throw her beans and a punch at my face. Her eyes burn like blue flames, practically scolding me with a glare. But just as I suspected, she reluctantly picks up her fork and shoves some beans into her mouth with her gaze pinned on me. I lean back in my chair, grinning. She could see it in my eyes that I would, in fact, spoon-feed her if she didn't start eating. And there was no way in hell she was going to let that happen. The next several minutes are filled with the sounds of clinking silverware and scattered conversations. Blair turns towards Kit and me, talking about plague knows what. In general, Kit is a far better man than I am. And especially so when it comes to her. He talks casually while I offer my attention to the food in front of me instead. Father's voice suddenly cuts through the din of conversation. "So?" I look up to see he's staring at Paedyn, intrigued. "This is the girl who saved you in the alley?" "Only after robbing me." I can feel everyone's eyes flick towards us, all listening in on the conversation. Paedyn gently drops her fork and stares at the king with so much intensity in her gaze that she briefly reminds me of Blair. There is a certain emotion clouding her eyes as she looks at him, an emotion she is trying to hide. I don't have time to try and decipher it before she schools her features into neutrality with the blink of an eye. "Yes, I did save his life. Isn't that right, Your Highness?" She turns her attention toward me, her smile turning into a challenge. "So you do know my title after all." Sarcasm coats my words while a smile toys at the corners of my lips. "You know, I wasn't sure. Because back in the alley you were calling me something very, very different." Her smile is all teeth. I'm sure whatever I called you was warranted. A pause, and accurate. A smile, and deserved. Cocky bastard. Her eyes, her smile, her tone, all of her screams the two words. Screams the title she's bestowed upon me. And what was your title again? The Silver Savior? I huff out a quiet laugh. Fitting. I know how much you love silvers. Paedyn's cool smile falters at the meaning behind my words. She's annoyed. I'm amused. Mother's feelings clearly mirror Paedyn's, because she shoots me a look before saying, "Thank you, Paedyn, for helping Kai." It did not go unnoticed by us, or the people, seeing that they wanted you in the trials. Paedyn dips her head and smiles softly at her, though it doesn't quite reach her eyes. At the sound of my father's voice, her smile wavers. I must say, I've never met a psychic before. He looks at her curiously. Your powers are intriguing. Paedyn relaxes and laughs lightly. Yes, well, my father said it's a rare yet small gift that not many mundanes possess. I suppose the most useful part of my ability is that I'm not affected by the silencers, as well as your son, it seems. A strand of silver hair falls into her eyes, and she tucks it behind her ear absent-mindedly as the rest of the table returns to their previous conversations, apparently bored with listening in on this one. Yes, your father. Paedyn Gray was a great healer. A very educated man, father says thoughtfully. Paedyn goes rigid in her seat. You? She clears her throat. You knew my father? Yes, I did. He would come to the palace during fever season to help our own court physicians when there were too many patients to attend to. Paedyn nods. Yes, I remember him doing that every winter. Their conversation is cut short when the servants pour back into the room to clear the dishes. They weave around the table, grabbing plates and silverware before disappearing back into the hallway, leaving a spotless table in their wake. Father and mother stand as one. Get some rest, elites. Your training begins tomorrow. With the king's final words, they turn and stroll out the grand doors. A beat of silence passes before chairs are scraping on the marble floor, and everyone is standing to their feet. 3 Imperials are heading towards the new elites, ready to escort them back to their rooms. I watch as a young, red-headed guard saunters up to Paedyn with a grin. And suddenly, I'm stepping between them before I can stop myself. I'll take it from here. He looks at me, confused. Sir, I am to escort. I'm aware. And I'm perfectly capable of making sure she gets to her room. Don't you agree? Yes, Your Majesty. And with that, he tips his head towards Paedyn before striding from the room. I glance at her myself, the look of confusion on her face mirroring the boys'. And then I turn and stroll out the doors, not waiting for her to catch up. She huffs before the quick click of her heeled boots begins echoing behind me. Why the sudden urge to be a gentleman? She calls dryly from behind. I stop and spin on my heel, watching her as she walks towards me, my gaze briefly flicking over her. Don't get used to it, I say with a quick smirk. My room just happens to be across from yours, so I might as well be a gentleman just this once. I shove my hands into my pockets as we begin walking again, this time with her at my side. And why would a prince be staying in the contestants' wing of the palace? Well, in case you haven't noticed, I too am a contestant in the trials. She huffs out a humorless laugh. Yes, I have happened to notice. But I thought the prince was supposed to have some grand room stocked full of servants who wait on him hand and foot? Her question is accusing, lovely words laced with venom. Oh, don't worry. I have one of those too, I reply coolly, hearing her scoff beside me. She's only partially right. I do have a grand room, though I refuse to let servants wait on me. All the contestants are to have the same living conditions before and during the trials. That way, no one can accuse anyone else of being favored or having the upper hand. We stop outside her room, where she turns to face me fully. She looks like she might laugh again, but when she speaks, her words are bitter. Just because we are all staying in similar rooms doesn't mean others don't have the upper hand. I'm quiet as I consider her for a moment. If I were a mundane thrown into the trials, pitted against some of the strongest abilities elites can have, I don't doubt I would feel any differently. Her power isn't something she can wield as a weapon like the rest of us. She's forced to rely on her own strength rather than the strength of an ability. I suddenly think of how she fought the silencer, so skilled and so sure of herself. Perhaps she has a better chance of surviving these games than she gives herself credit for. I watch her gaze trail over my shoulder to the door I'm currently blocking. She opens her mouth to say something, drawing my attention to the healing split in her bottom lip. On an impulse I couldn't seem to ignore, my fingers catch her chin and lift her face up towards mine. She's too stunned to move, and I take advantage of it. I would have thought you could avoid a direct hit like this. Guess you're not as skilled of a fighter as I thought. I shrug and tilt her head towards the light, casually examining the angry cut in her lip. But she's no longer standing there stunned, still and silent. In one swift movement, she grabs my wrist from under her chin and twists it outward with a jerk, sending a shooting pain up my arm. Then she's gripping my shirt and shoving me against the wall. Her free hand finds the dagger strapped to my hip and slips it out, settling the sharp blade against my throat. Would you like to find out just how skilled of a fighter I am? She looks up at me coolly, amusement dancing in her eyes at the situation I'm currently in. She loves the sight of the prince pinned against a wall, and not just any prince, the future enforcer. I lean against the cool stone, laughing darkly as I slip my hands casually into my pockets. That only has her pressing the blade harder against my throat, threatening to draw blood. Vicious little thing, isn't she? Careful, Highness. I wouldn't want to spill royal blood. She's mocking me, and it's an adorable attempt. I lean towards her, letting the sharp steel of my own blade bite into my throat, drawing a thin line of hot blood. Careful, darling. You forget that spilling blood is what I do best. We stare at each other. She's eyeing me with an expression I can't quite read, but she recovers quickly, diverting the conversation with ease. One of your Imperials did this to me. She uncurls her fist from my shirt and gestures to her lip. Speaking of, did you ever ask him about me? I'm sure he had much to say. I had, and he did. After speaking with each Imperial assigned to the morning rotation, one mentioned his recent encounter with the psychic. The man's disdain for Paedyn was more than obvious as he recapped what she had sensed from him. And yet, he failed to mention how he'd hit her. Perhaps I'll relieve him of one of his hands, so he never has the opportunity to lay it on a woman again. I spoke with him, yes, I say quietly. Though it seems we may be having another conversation in the near future. Her eyes flick over my face, making me feel abnormally and annoyingly anxious under her gaze. I clear my throat and look down towards the knife she still holds steadily against my neck. I thought we established that you do know who I am, correct? The corner of my lips twists upward as I say it, remembering our encounter in the alley when I had her pinned against a wall. I do, she says, so close to me now that I can study all the different shades of blue in her eyes. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. A cocky bastard? I laugh, only making the dagger sink farther into my flesh. Besides, it doesn't matter who you are. Her gaze drops to the floor briefly, before fixing it back on me. We are competing against each other now. No favoritism, remember? You said so yourself. Fine. I'll play along. I slip a hand from my pocket and reach around her back, slowly, holding her gaze all the while. She looks at me, confusion written all over her face, though her hold on the knife is firm. She and I both know she won't actually slit my throat, so I'm not the least bit worried as I continue to wrap my arm behind her until my fingers brush against the cold handle of a dagger tucked into the band of her pants. I knew it was there, saw the sun glint off the silver hilt when she stood from the dinner table, turning her back to me. Smiling down at her, I slide out the dagger slowly, my fingers briefly brushing against her lower back. I think I hear the faintest gasp slip past her lips as I press her own knife to her throat, mirroring what she's doing to me. You're right. We are competing against each other now. I laugh softly. Guess I better start trying then. We watch each other for a long moment. Her gaze is unwavering, reminding me of the still ocean, the calm before the storm. Mark my words, Prince. I will be your undoing. I lean in, ignoring the knife against my throat as I murmur, "Oh, darling, I look forward to it." Far too much time passes. And then, slowly, surprisingly, she drops the knife from my throat. I, too, lower her dagger and place it in her expectant, outstretched hand. She moves to pull away, to leave me and this conversation, but I catch her wrist. She stills at my touch, and my eyes lock with hers as I guide her hand, and the knife clutched within it to my chest. The blade lined with my own blood meets the fabric of my shirt, and her knuckles brush my chest as I wipe her dagger clean. So much for not spilling royal blood, I sigh. She exhales slowly. It was going to happen sooner or later. So I should get used to this. You should expect this. I smile. Then I look forward to our next encounter. I wink, and she rolls her eyes before slipping my dagger back into its sheath and returning her own into the band of her pants. And then she's brushing past my arm and heading for her door. Always a pleasure, I say, striding to my own room across the hall. Unfortunately, I'm afraid I can't say the same. I see the flash of a grin before she steps into her room, swinging the door shut behind her. As soon as I'm on the other side of my own door, I'm pacing around the room that just so happens to be right across from hers. My fingers stray to my neck, feeling the sticky warmth of my blood there. This girl might be the death of me. Literally. Sweat rolls down my forehead and clings to my lashes. I am so out of shape. After 3 long days of training, my body is sore and screaming at me to stop. My years of living on the streets have taken their toll, leaving me weaker than I realized despite my regular running from imperials and scaling chimneys. I lower my head and bring the hem of my dirt-stained tank to my eyes, huffing as I wipe the beads of sweat from my face. I'm filthy. And sadly, it's the most normal I've felt since I arrived at the palace. A tall, padded tree looms before me, the indentations from my fists still visible in the rough cushions wrapping around the trunk. I've been in the training yard for hours now, along with the other contestants, all doing various exercises or sparring against one another. The yard is nothing like the crude, muddy ring I grew up training in. I turn and lean against the padded tree, sweeping my gaze across the dozen large rings dotting the grassy yard where most of my competition is currently residing. Wide wooden racks filled with weapons and shields, all new and waiting to be used, accompany each of the rings. I've never seen anything like it. So many weapons at my disposal. So many weapons going to waste. My eyes skim over the training yard. Everywhere I look, my fellow competitors are exercising, stretching, sparring, and just as dirty and drenched in sweat as I am. They all seem to avoid training with their abilities for the time being, likely waiting to put their powers on display until the interviews. Just the mere thought has me anxiously spinning the ring on my thumb. This time tomorrow, we'll be showing off to the kingdom of Ilya while trying to win their favor. From the little I've learned from Ellie, The interviews are how the people choose who they want to support in the trials. It's a time for the elites to display their strength, talk themselves up, and try to earn the people's votes. And that is exactly what I need to do, win the people over. They play a vital part in these twisted games, and the more votes a contestant gets, the more it boosts their score. I sigh and breathe in the humid air, smelling of fresh grass, dirt, and more than a hint of sweat. I'm relieved to be training, to be doing something with my hands to keep my mind from wandering to dangerously detrimental thoughts, such as the trials and the possibility, the likelihood of my impending death. I'm yanked from my thoughts when my eyes land on tanned skin. With the afternoon sun beating down on us, the boys have long abandoned their sweaty shirts, and it's annoyingly distracting, to say the least. Kit and Kai circle each other in a ring, smiling as they exchange words, seeming to be sparring verbally before they begin doing so physically. The brothers look comfortable, content in this moment together. Though the future king isn't a contestant in the trials, that doesn't seem to stop him from training and eating with us as though he is one. I've kept my distance from both the brothers and my other competitors, though the tension between all of us only grows with each passing day. My gaze wanders back to the boys, tracing the identical dark tattoo swirling just above their hearts. Even from this distance, I can make out Elya's symbol of strength etched into their skin. The crest itself is simple, consisting of thick swirls all connected in a sideways diamond. It supposedly represents the different powers and how they all work together, while also representing the 4 landmarks that surround Ilya. There's Plummet Mount to the north, the Shallow Sea to the west, the Scorches Desert to the east, and the Whispers Forest to the south, all coming together to create a diamond around the city. I blink and tear my eyes from the brothers before turning back towards the tree, suddenly feeling the urge to hit something again. I spin and land a solid kick into the thick pads, resounding in a satisfying thunk. Sweat rolls down my body in rivulets, even after stripping down to my thin tank, now damp and clinging to me uncomfortably. My slim, black pants are hot to the touch under the cooking sun, and I roll them nearly to my knees, tempted to tear the damn things off. I hammer blows into the matted tree until my knuckles are red and raw, before leaning my sweaty forehead against the cushion, panting slightly. The mat stifles my groan before I force myself to make my way to the closest weapons rack. My fingers dance along the beautiful throwing knives lying innocently on the rack. The smoothness, the sheer sharpness of these knives has me itching to throw them. I turn my attention to the target 10 yards ahead of me and begin burying several knives deep into the rough wood. I fall into a rhythm, letting my body relax with each knife I let fly. I feel focused. I feel dazed. I missed this. I let my mind wander, watching as the knives meet their mark. Suddenly, I'm standing in my backyard again, throwing small, measly blades into the rough bark of a tree. My father paces behind me, drilling me with questions. Questions about my surroundings, about things I should observe in seconds, even while my mind focuses on the blades sinking into their target. I can almost hear my father's footsteps in the dirt behind me. The familiar whoosh of a knife cutting through the air has me ducking instinctively, feeling the whisper of a blade above my head, before looking up just in time to see it sink into the target. A beautiful throw, but I'm far too pissed to admire it. I draw up to my full height and whirl on my heel, eyes locking on the gray ones a few yards away. He's the perfect picture of innocence. Hands already in his pockets, hair ruffling in the breeze, and a lazy smirk on his lips. Good reflexes, Gray. That cocky son of a... What the hell is wrong with you? I stomp towards Kai, closing the distance between us in a matter of seconds. What if I didn't duck, huh? He shrugs. Then, I would have had less competition to worry about. So, you're admitting that I'm a threat to you? I never said that. But you implied it. Don't flatter yourself. My chest heaves as I hold his gaze. A single dimple makes an appearance when he looks down at me, the corner of his mouth tilted in amusement. And with that, the urge to hit him only grows. I knew you'd duck, Gray, he murmurs, his lips twitching with the use of my last name. A shiver runs down my spine despite the sun beating on my back, when he leans even closer to whisper something in my ear. But I never find out what it was he wanted to say. A prick of pain pierces my ear, and I jerk in shock. I hear the thud of a knife hitting the target behind us and look up over Kai's shoulder to see Blair, hand outstretched. A smirk twists her red lips, but her dark eyes flick between Kai and me. I reach a hand to the shell of my ear where my fingers are quickly coated with sticky blood. She sent the knife flying into the target, but not before it left its mark on me. She cut me. On purpose. A muscle feathers in Kai's jaw, the only indication of his temper. He remains hovering over me, refusing to turn towards Blair while half blocking me from her with his body. Territorial, are we, Blair? I say, looking from Kai to her blazing gaze. She clearly didn't like the fact that the prince was giving someone else attention, even if that attention was him throwing a knife at my head. Maybe she's into that. She ignores my question, voice smug. Just thought I would mark my target before the trials begin. And then she spins on her heel and struts away, leaving me staring after her. I swallow, feeling smaller and weaker than I ever have before. Blair's display was a reminder of how easy it would be for any of these elites to end my ordinary life. She marked me. You're getting blood in your hair, darling. My eyes snap to Kai, still looming over me, now assessing my wound with his piercing gaze. I reach up, intending to tuck the hair behind my bloody ear when his hand catches my wrist. Don't, he sighs, his calluses brushing my skin as he pulls my hand in front of my face and nods at my bloody fingers. Unless you wish to add more blood to your hair? I try not to gape at him, and that only makes his grin grow. Why are you? Being a gentleman? He finishes for me, sighing as though he doesn't quite know the answer himself. Let's just say I happen to know how difficult it is to wash blood out of hair, so I don't envy your current situation. His eyes wander over my stinging wound and the blood I can feel dripping from it. Then he drops my wrist before gingerly tucking hair behind my ear, muttering, "You're making a mess, Gray." I blink at him, vaguely wondering if a wound this shallow made me lose enough blood to have me hallucinating. Something must be horribly wrong, because the future enforcer just gently tucked hair behind my ear, so it wouldn't get any bloodier than it already is. Turn around. The command snaps me back to reality. There's that lovely future enforcer. His brows raise expectantly, waiting for me to obey the order. Instead, the words that fall out of my mouth are, "And why would I do that?" His voice is flat. "Because I told you to. And that is supposed to mean something to me? I am playing a very, very dangerous game." He cracks a smile. "Fine." And then he's suddenly stepping behind me, muttering, "Stubborn little thing." Rough fingers brush against the nape of my neck. My breath catches as he casually pulls my hair into his hands, combing the strands out of my face and away from my bloody ear. "What are you?" I stop short, feeling the pattern he's gently weaving. "Are you braiding my hair?" "Why do you sound so surprised?" he asks simply, unaware that my mouth is hanging open in shock. His voice is full of that cocky challenge as he says, "What? Do you need me to teach you how to?" "No, I don't need you to teach." I pause, taking a breath. "How do you even know how to braid?" He huffs out a laugh that stirs the hair at the back of my neck. "You say that like it's supposed to be difficult." We're quiet for a moment, and the brush of his fingers traveling farther down my back has me stilling. I clear my throat. I thought you told me not to get used to you being a gentleman. I can practically hear the smirk in his voice when he says, and I still stand by that statement. Then why are you doing this? He heaves a sigh. Fingers fall to my arm, and I almost jump at the sudden skim of his calluses. They stop on the strap wrapped around my wrist before slipping it off to begin securing my hair. There, he says, stepping around to stand in front of me as he flicks the long braid over my shoulder. Then he gives it a tug, admiring his handiwork with a smile that displays his dimples. I look down at the braid and stifle a snort at the sight of several strands sticking up. I thought this wasn't difficult for you. I laugh as I say, you do know that all of the hair is supposed to make it into the braid, correct? Odd way to say thank you, but I suppose that is the best I'll get from you. He leans in closer, lips lifted into a mocking grin. Perhaps if you won't let me teach you how to braid, you'll consider letting me teach you some manners. I nearly choke on my scoff at the thought of the future enforcer teaching me manners. His eyes skim over my ear before he takes a step away, slipping his hands into his pockets. You should get that healed up before the interviews tomorrow, he says casually, nodding to my wound. We wouldn't want Blair's mark on you to scar. The sudden bite in those words has me stunned for a moment, as I study him in the growing silence. No, I finally manage. We wouldn't want that. His gaze sweeps over me again before he turns, tossing a smirk over his shoulder. Good luck tomorrow, Gray. I don't bother fighting my smile. If I had any manners, I would wish you luck as well, Prince. But you already informed me that I don't. He laughs, and the sound snakes down my spine as he continues to stride away. Without him to distract me, my ear stings furiously as I begin my trek back to the castle, with one thought occupying me. He never answered my question. The cool steel of my father's ring does little to comfort me as I spin it on my thumb. Gentle fingers are gliding through my hair, pinning and pulling at the messy strands. Between Ellie's soothing touches and the plush vanity bench I'm currently slumped on, my drooping eyelids threaten to pull me back into restless sleep, despite my reeling mind. Ellie must see the worry and weariness written all over my face, because she offers me a sympathetic smile in the mirror. How are you feeling? You know, about the interviews? The constant spinning of my ring never slows, though my nerves never calm. Well, I have no idea what to expect. And if it goes poorly, I trail off as Ellie nods at me in the mirror, not needing me to finish that thought. Don't overthink it. You'll be fine, she assures, while continuing to pin up my hair. Besides, the people can't stop talking about the Silver Savior. The Silver Savior. I nearly laugh at the name I've been bestowed. If they really knew why I was able to stop the silencer, they wouldn't be calling me a savior anymore. In fact, they wouldn't be calling me anything, because I would just become another dead ordinary who doesn't deserve a name, a title, a memory. An elegant, low bun sits at the nape of my neck when Ellie finishes, sparkling pins holding it in place, while silver ringlets surround my powdered face and darkened lashes. After much deliberation, we settle on a sleeveless, light blue dress. Elegant, but not too flashy. You'll want to make a good impression, and I think this one will do the trick, Ellie says with a smile. As soon as I've slipped into it, I'm being dragged over to the mirror so Ellie can admire her handiwork. Between the hair, makeup, and blue gown hugging my body, I almost look like I belong here. Like I haven't been sleeping on the streets for the past 5 years of my life. A knock on the door startles me enough to stop staring at my reflection. You ready in there? Lenny is waiting outside the door when Ellie pushes me into the hallway, sneaking a shy glance at him before retreating into my room. He gives me an easy smile before leading us back to the main, massive doors of the castle and into the sun-bathed courtyard beyond. We're not alone. Most of the other contestants are tensely milling about while the rest slowly file out of the castle. Soon, Imperials are shuffling by, joining the group of us standing idly. What's going on? I breathe to Lenny, still standing beside me. We, he gestures to his fellow Imperials, are escorting you all to the bowl. My eyes drift to the looming structure sitting innocently nearby. I'd never been to any of the contestants' interviews before, so I've never had the pleasure of packing into the arena stands alongside thousands of other aliens. It's been granted its unoriginal name due to the sloping, bowl-like shape of the large stadium that I never thought I'd step foot in. The group sets an easy pace as we make our way to the bowl, Imperials flanking us on all sides. It's less than a mile from the palace, and I'm completely content to study my surroundings as we walk the gravel path. Twisted, drooping trees loom over us, oddly enchanting with the way the sun streams through their leaves to cast the ground beneath them in dappled light. Vibrant white and light pink flowers dot the branches, while several of them flutter down, scattering the path with petals. I let myself fall to the back of the group, watching my competition as they stride in front of me. All the boys wear some variation of slim pants and colored button-downs, while the girls wear sleek but simple dresses. Braxton and Sadie speak in hushed tones with hesitant smiles, while Andy keeps sticking out her foot to catch Jax's ankle, sending him stumbling while she snickers. My eyes sweep to Hera, quiet as she looks around in awe at the tunnel of trees enclosing the path. Ace, on the other hand, has his nose so high in the air that I doubt he can even see what's in front of him. Finally, my gaze trails to the two tall figures striding at the front of the group. Kit and Kai chuckle quietly, a seemingly common occurrence when the two of them are together. Once again, the future king blends in with the contestants, making me briefly wonder if he wishes he was a part of these twisted trials. Blair wedges herself between the two brothers, laughing at something one of them said. Both her lilac hair and shimmery navy dress gleam in the sun, giving the illusion of a constant spotlight following her. She uses any excuse to touch the boys, making her anything but subtle. She knows what she wants, and it's clear that it is one of them. I almost admire her resilience. I walk quietly while watching the pink petals fall from the trees, drifting to the ground on a gentle breeze. I see you found something to wear. The deep voice beside me makes me jump, and I curse under my breath at the sudden sight of the future king beside me. He's chuckling at the stunned look on my face, and I fight the urge to shove him for startling me like that. I take a deep breath before meeting his green gaze, the color matching the leaves hanging above us, matching the color of his father's eyes, the king's eyes. The sudden realization has me faltering. I force myself to swallow my disgust towards this man and the corrupt kingdom he will rule in his father's likeness. Taking a deep breath, I remind myself to be civil, polite, play the part. Yes, but I can't take all the credit. I look down at my light blue dress, billowing in the soft breeze. I have Ellie to thank for this. Ah, yes. The future king's grin is teasing, startling me. Ellie, the maid you insisted you didn't need? That's the one, I reply, dryly. You know, I thought she liked me, but it seems she wants to torture me with these shoes. I can already feel my feet beginning to blister in the too tight, strappy sandals Ellie insisted I wear. He laughs again, a bright and contagious sound that manages to make me uneasy. I don't envy you or the blisters you'll likely have. A small smile curves his lips as he gestures to me. But it suits you nonetheless. Thank you. The words come out sounding more like a question than I intended. I always assumed the future king would be cold, calculating, more like his brother at the very least. But Kit seems to be quite the opposite, which confuses me, considering who his father is and what his future holds. Lost in thought, I look up to see the giant silhouette of the bowl looming closer, awaiting us at the end of the tree tunnel. It's enormous, Other than the castle, I've never seen a structure so large. I feel something land on top of my head and practically jump out of my skin. Kit barks out a laugh as he reaches over and plucks the thing from my hair, making me flinch. The action doesn't go unnoticed, and his brows crinkle with concern. I'm not playing the part very well. Wiping my face of the anxiety I'm sure is written all over it, I try to manage a weak smile as I stare down at the pink flower he now twirls between his fingers. I glance up, catching sight of several petals clinging to Kit's messy hair. "You know," he says softly, plopping the flower back on top of my head, "this also suits you." I take a deep breath and force a stronger smile. "I could say the same about you," I say, pointing at his blonde hair full of petals. He returns my grin as he runs a hand through it, doing little to rid his hair of the flowers, creating a crown atop his head. "Well, now we're matching," he says simply, his eyes watchful. I look away, still feeling his gaze roaming over my face as I try my hardest to look calm, collected. "You look," he pauses, trying to find the right word. "Anxious." So much for calm and collected. I offer him a quick smile that doesn't reach my eyes. "Well, let's hope anxiety suits me as well." "Is it the interviews that have you nervous, or is it something else?" His words are soft, curious, concerning. My gaze slides to his, before quickly looking away at the sight of the king's eyes staring back at me. Just the interviews, and the possibility that I'll make a fool out of myself. "You'll be fine, especially after your incident with my brother in loot." He gives me that charming grin of his. "You know the people are still talking about you." I'm about to respond when my face is suddenly bathed in sunlight. I hadn't realized the tunnel of trees had ended, leaving me blinking rapidly in the blinding light. But the sun is gone as quickly as it came. The group quiets when we step into the shadow cast by the bowl. We make our way into one of the many large cement tunnels leading into the arena, our footsteps echoing off cold stone walls, until we are spit out onto the lowest level of the stadium. My head swivels back and forth, eyes wide as I take it all in. Wrapping around the entire oval arena are dozens of wide rows covered in concrete benches that climb up the side of the bowl. My eyes sweep over the thick glass encasing each section of the stands. No, not glass. Mute. I've only briefly learned of the rare material invented by the scholars, let alone seen it myself, by means that are far too complicated for me to understand. This glass look-alike prevents the elites within the stands from using their powers, so as not to interfere with the trials. I tear my eyes away from the odd phenomenon and continue perusing the bowl with my wide gaze. Though we stand at ground level beside the bottom row of benches, the sand-packed arena lies below us. I walk over to the thick metal railing at the edge of the path and look down. It's easily a 15-foot drop to the arena floor below us, packed with sand. The pit. And that is where the trials will take place while hundreds of aliens watch from the stands encircling us. The Imperials begin herding us along the path until we come to a stop beside a wide room jutting out into the pathway, surrounded by thick glass. Peering inside, I can see 3 large and luxurious chairs, all sitting on a polished wood floor and looking so at odds with the gray, cold concrete covering the rest of the bowl. The king's box. So this is where he sits comfortably and watches us die. To my surprise, the Imperials begin pushing us into the glass room, one by one. We all file into a line and watch as Kai strides to the far corner. I crane my neck to see him lift a hidden latch from the floor, swinging open a trapdoor before jumping down easily. A hand on my shoulder urges me forward. Where are we going? I walk through the stuffy room and make my way to the hole in the floor that awaits me. The room beneath is cast in shadows, making it impossible to see how far down the floor is. I sigh before stepping off the edge and into the darkness. My feet hit the ground with a soft thud. After estimating that the drop was nearly 7 feet, I'm thankful that the ground beneath my sandals is plush. But with the shifting mat beneath me and my bent knees to lessen the impact of the drop, I can't help but stumble forward into something solid. No, not something. Someone. Strong arms wrap around me before I feel the rumble of deep laughter coming from the broad chest I slammed into. Large hands are placed firmly on my hips, and as my eyes adjust to the darkness, I can just make out the familiar curve of a smirk on Kai's lips as he looks down at me. Sloppy footwork, Gray. I'd hate to be your partner on the dance floor. I push against his chest with my palms, and he reluctantly releases me, laughing darkly. Well then, the feeling is mutual. I'm flustered and I hate it. And I have fabulous footwork, thank you very much. I clear my throat, averting my gaze before adding quietly, when fighting, he's right, once again. And once again, I hate it. I am a disastrous dancer. I may be able to dance around in a brawl, but that skill doesn't extend to the ballroom. He laughs again, but before he has the chance to make some sly comment that I would most definitely make him regret, Kit drops down beside me. Toying with your competition, brother? I can hear the amusement in his voice as he walks over to a large lever on the wall and jerks it upward. The lights above us flicker and hum to life, painfully reminding me of home and the few buzzing lamps that scatter Loot Alley. I can't help but toy with the competition that's fun to play with, Kai replies with a sloppy shrug. I'm about to say something I likely shouldn't when our conversation comes to a halt as the rest of the elites quite literally fall into the room. Looking around, I find the space filled with plushy chairs and couches, along with an assortment of snacks sprawled out on a long table, making it clear that we are waiting here until the interviews start. Everyone mills about the room, dropping into chairs and grabbing food. I feel a brush of a hand on my shoulder and startle, spinning around to meet a pair of amused, honey eyes hiding behind strands of wine-red hair. Jumpy, aren't you? Andy quirks a brow. Yes. Well, I thought you were Kai and was preparing to break your nose. She snorts loudly. Understandable. My cousin's an ass. Kinda. She jerks her head towards Kai, but the smile doesn't fade from her face. I blink. Cousin? Yup. He's lucky enough to be related to me. She smirks, her nose ring winking in the dim light. They both are, though I'm only Kit's half-cousin, I suppose. So, you grew up in the palace too? With them? I nod my head towards the boys who look to be mercilessly teasing Jax. Yeah, unfortunately. She shakes her head and chuckles. The number of fights those two have gotten into over food. She trails off, smiling to herself. Anyways, I'm what they call a handy back at the palace. My dad and I fix anything that needs fixing in the castle. And trust me, those two have broken a lot over the years. Eventually, we find our way to one of the couches and plop down, talking hesitantly. We're polite with each other, content to have a civil conversation, while still being very aware of the fact that we are competitors. The thundering sound of hundreds of stomping feet quiets us all. The rumble fills the arena above, making my stomach twist. They're here. Hundreds of Ilians, thousands even. All here to watch the interviews, the show. Here to choose who they want to support, who they want to live. I'm not sure how long it takes for the parade of footsteps climbing up the rows to quiet, but the voices don't. They chant and cheer, waiting for the contestants to show themselves. The Imperials beckon us back towards the trapdoor, where I suddenly find myself in another line, waiting my turn to pull myself out of the room and back into the glass box above us. I hadn't even noticed the future king beside me until he reaches up to pull something from my hair. I don't even have time to flinch before he's holding a flower in front of my face. The one I had forgotten was tangled in the silver strands. Although I think it suits you, maybe you shouldn't do your interview with this on your head. He gestures to the flower with a smile. You might attract a lot of attention, especially from bees. Play the part. That's what I must keep telling myself, because every time I look at him, all I can see is his father, and a man who will one day rule over a corrupt kingdom. And yet, despite my disgust, I force a smile to my face. Thank you for saving me from both embarrassment and bees. Braxton steps beneath the exit, and I'm thankful for the excuse to look away from the future king. The brawny doesn't even need to jump to grab hold of the lip before easily pulling himself off the floor and through the trapdoor. One by one, the boys help themselves up into the room above until only the two princes remain. They help the girls up with ease, practically lifting Hera through the opening. Blair takes advantage of the situation, using it as an excuse to have the boys' hands all over her. After Sadie politely asks for a boost, I'm left alone with the brothers. I look up through the trapdoor, assessing my jump, when Kai steps behind me, ducking his head so his chin nearly rests on my shoulder. Too stubborn to ask for my help, Gray? No, I say coolly. Too strong to need it. His next words are murmured close to my ear. That's what I like to hear. The heat of him vanishes when he steps to the side, gesturing to the trapdoor above with a smile twisting his lips. I jump, my fingers curling around the edge of the opening as I dangle in the air for a moment. I've never been more grateful for the many years I've had to practice scaling buildings. I pull myself up, ready to swing my legs over. This damn dress. I huff. It's stiff, the fabric hugging my hips, making it impossible to move freely. Go on. It's Kai's taunting voice I hear behind me. Ask for my help, Gray. I roll my eyes at the wall in front of me. Stubborn, remember? I hear Kit chuckle before I feel hands brushing my legs. Startled, I look down, eyes landing on a bent head of messy black waves. Kai is gripping the bottom seam of my dress, his eyes flicking up to mine. May I? His voice is soft, tone amused. I swallow, roll my eyes once again, and nod against my better judgment. And then he's ripping my dress. He tears the fabric easily, creating a slit up the side of my thigh, freeing me from the tight confines of the fabric. His rough fingers briefly brush my skin as he says, I am more than willing to rip your dresses for you, Gray. To help, of course. Kit snorts while Kai smirks. You only need to ask. Why ask when you're so eager to offer? Kai's laughter follows me as I finally pull myself up, arms burning with the strain. When I stand to my feet inside the glass box, I'm relieved to find the chairs are still empty. The thought of seeing the king after the way he so flippantly spoke about my father, as if he weren't his murderer, makes my blood boil. Before that dinner, I'd never had to fight the urge to shove a fork through someone's jugular. I take a deep breath before stepping out onto the pathway. The crowd roars. Here we are. The Imperials lead us to a small opening in the railing opposite the box, where stairs have been placed for us to get into the pit below. My feet hit the hard sand of the arena as the crowd cheers, sounding as though the trials have already begun. We walk across the large floor of the pit, stopping in the middle where a makeshift stage rises a few feet off the ground. 10 plush chairs line the back of it, while 2 more are centered in front. The Imperials usher us onto the stage where we take a seat. My gaze catches Lenny's, and he gives me a reassuring nod before stepping into line with the other Imperials. Welcome, fellow Ilians, to the 6th ever Purging Trials. The crowd roars as I snap my head towards the high female voice. She turns to face us, brown eyes bright with excitement and full red lips curved into a smile as she takes us in. Tiela. Ironic that her bright teal hair matches her name. I'd never seen the young woman who conducted the interviews for the previous trials, but I've heard enough about her unique appearance to identify her. Oh, but this is no ordinary trials. She beams at the crowd, flashing her white teeth. For the first time in Purging Trials history, we have a future enforcer competing. I can almost feel the thousands of eyes shift in Kai's direction. He's clearly used to this attention, appearing completely relaxed as he reclines in his chair. Tila continues, and because of that, this year's trials will look a little different. The crowd goes wild. Ellie's words echo in my head, mirroring the ones Tila just spoke. Different. All because there is royal blood competing? All to make things more difficult for the future enforcer? I don't have time to ponder it more before Tila says, "Are you ready to meet your elites?" She flattens her hand to her chest as she speaks, causing her words to carry across the arena. Her ability as an amplifier allows her to project her voice, as well as the voices of others, so long as she is touching them. A mundane power, yet useful in this line of work. The crowd cheers and stomps, mimicking the rumble of thunder. Why don't we meet Jax first? Jax, sweetie, would you come sit up here with me? Jax plops down in the chair angled towards Tila at the front of the stage with a shy smile on his face. He fidgets, one of his long legs bouncing on the ground as she pelts him with idle questions about his life and the trials. I like sparring with Kit, mostly because he lets me win sometimes. Kai, not so much. The crowd erupts in laughter at Jax's response to what he likes most about training for the trials. He smiles sheepishly at Tila, his grin widening when he shifts in his seat to spot Kai's quick shrug. Isn't he just adorable? Tila flashes a smile at the crowd before asking, "Tell me, Jax, how old are you again?" Tila's hand rests on his shoulder, amplifying his answer. 15. He's so young. 15 and already bestowed the honor of competing in the trials. Tila exclaims, looking towards the crowd for approval, which they offer in the form of stomps and cheers. And remind us again of your power? He clears his throat. I'm a blink. How fascinating. Tell us more for those who haven't witnessed this ability. Well, he straightens in his seat. I can teleport anywhere that I can see, in a blink. He smiles as the audience laughs. All right, Jax. One more question before you show us what you can do. Tila looks suddenly serious as she says, "What are you expecting from the trials?" Jax's head tilts to the side thoughtfully. Well, I'm not sure what the trials will consist of, but no matter what, I'm expecting to honor my kingdom, my family. He pauses and tosses a glance at Kai. And myself. The stadium explodes in applause at hearing the motto of the Purging Trials. Tila stands and guides Jax down the steps of the stage and onto the packed sand of the pit in front of us. The floor is all yours, Jax. 1 second, Jax is grinning at the audience, and the next, he's gone. I spin in my seat to see where he went, only to find him standing right behind Kai, a mischievous grin on his face. He ruffles his hair before vanishing, leaving the prince sputtering. Jax continues his little routine, blinking from one spot to the next, causing the crowd to gasp in surprise at each new place he appears in. After a few minutes, he blinks back to his original seat, right between Kai and Braxton, where the former doesn't hesitate to trap him in a headlock and mercilessly ruffle his hair. Tila continues her own routine of questioning the contestants, before letting them loose to show off their abilities, following the same pattern. It's nothing but a talent show. A showcase of who is the strongest. Braxton smashes and hurdles stone statues that have been scattered across the stadium for him. After Ace's interview, where he spoke as though he'd already won the trials, he strode down into the pit, pompous as ever. The illusions he casts look so real, so easy to mistake for reality. He made fire flare, burning across the sand in a trail of flame, managing to even smell of smoke. And then it was gone in a flash, as quickly as it had appeared, leaving nothing behind. Sadie, being a cloner, displayed her power by creating 10 copies of herself and striding them through the stands. Each duplicate offered quick waves to the crowd before filing back to her seat. Blair followed Sadie's interview, being annoyingly sweet towards Tila and the crowd, though I don't miss the sharpness returned to her voice when talking about winning the trials. She stepped out onto the packed sand and gently lifted Tila right off the ground, using her power of telekinesis, informing me that her strength lies mentally rather than physically. In fact, the blade that sliced my ear only yesterday was likely thrown by her power, not her hand. Hero was shy, squirming in her seat and only talking when necessary. I could practically see her sigh in relief when she was finally free to show off her ability and avoid talking to the audience. She vanishes, and after a moment, Tila vanishes too. The crowd applauds, left staring at the empty air where they once stood. Andy was the most entertaining by far, unashamedly telling embarrassing stories about her childhood with Kit and Kai. The crowd loved her, laughed at her every word. But when she stepped out onto the floor of the pit to display her power, my gasp was swallowed up by the crowds. Right before my very eyes, she transformed into a tiger, then a falcon, a wolf, all of them the same wine color of her hair. And then, after casually switching between multiple animals, she transformed back into her human self, her lilac dress somehow still perfectly intact. Tila chooses Kai next, leaving me for last. Great. With Kai smiling at her, Tila looks flushed and flustered. It's clear he slipped on his charming mask as he jokes and interacts with the crowd. When Tila asks him about what he's expecting from the trials, his answer is the same as all the other contestants before him. Honor to my kingdom, my family, and myself. When the prince finally finishes, he flashes a grin at the blushing Tila, before stepping right off the stage to showcase his power. Well, everyone else's powers. He goes right down the line of contestants, using each of their abilities and wooing the audience with them. Their powers seem easy to him, familiar, the result of many years of training. When he comes to the end of the row, his eyes meet mine. His head cocks slightly to the side as he takes me in, gray gaze wandering over my face. I can't imagine how much it must rattle him to not be able to use my ability, and the thought brings a small smile to my lips as I look down at him. Then Kai is back in his chair, and I'm striding towards my doom. And lastly, we have Paedyn Gray. Tila's voice echoes through the arena as she pats the seat beside her expectantly. Play the part. My palms are slick with sweat. I sit down in the seat beside Tila and smooth out the skirt of my dress, if only for an excuse to wipe my sweaty hands on the smooth silk. I look up into the audience and my breath catches. I'm embarrassed that I hadn't observed them before, but now I can't seem to tear my eyes away. The king and queen and Kit. They stare down at me from their snug glass box. The king and his heir sit close together, their similarities striking me like a blow to the chest. Their sandy hair and emerald eyes mirror one another, looking so alike that my hatred for one begins to bleed into the other. So, Paedyn, tell us about your incident with Prince Kai. My eyes trail back to Tila's, nearly blinded by her gleaming white teeth and vibrant hair. She leans towards me and places a soft hand on my shoulder, projecting my voice for all to hear. Well, according to Prince Kai, there's not much to tell, but if you ask me, I think he's a little embarrassed that a girl from the slums had to come to his rescue. The words tumble out of my mouth before I can stop them. Plagues. I need the people to like me, and mocking their prince is probably not the best way to. Laughter. To my surprise and saving grace, the audience finds me amusing. I peek over my shoulder at Kai and watch the ghost of a smile grace his features. So maybe I can bash their prince after all. I can work with that. not afraid to tell it like it is. Tila laughs softly before moving on to the next question, the one I'm sure many are wondering. So, tell us again, how is it that you were able to fight off the silencer? I mean, it's clear you can hold your own in a physical fight, but how come the silencer didn't affect you? I take a deep breath, knowing that this detail is very important for everyone to understand, to believe. Well, Tila, I'm a psychic. It's a mental ability that allows me to sense strong emotions from others and get flashes of information. And because of that, I have the power to guard my head, keep it safe from people like the silencers. I smile slightly before adding, and apparently people like Prince Kai, since he can't use or sense my small ability. How fascinating. I must say, I've never met a psychic before. Her eyes are wide, looking very intrigued with me, as I'm sure the rest of the crowd is. Yes. Well, despite it being a mundane ability, it does seem to be quite rare. I smile brightly, as if I'm not lying through the teeth I'm flashing at her. All right, Paedyn, tell us about your life in the... She stutters, almost saying slums before choosing to say, in Ilya. I contemplate lying some more, saying how it wasn't that bad, how it was easy living in the slums. But it seems I suddenly have the urge to be honest. You mean life in the slums? She blinks at me, surprised by my blunt correction. There's not much to tell. Life on the streets isn't much of a life at all. I look her right in the eyes before turning to face the hushed crowd. These past few years, hunger and cold have been the only constant in my life. But it's not just me. There are dozens of others who sleep on the same hard cobblestone I did. Dozens of others who will do anything for a single shilling. I pause and take a breath. Living in the slums is survival of the fittest. So, in a way, I'm more prepared for these trials than anyone. Tila stares at me in shock, clearly not expecting that answer. Then something like pity gleams in her brown eyes. I hate it. I don't want her or the crowd's pity. I want change. She quickly moves on to more light-hearted questions about training and my fellow contestants. Who do you think will be your biggest competition? I tuck a strand of hair behind my ear, contemplating my answer. Perhaps Prince Kai? Seeing that he has the ability to use any power? Tila offers. Not mine, remember? I laugh lightly, and so does she. He won't be a problem. In fact, we'll see how far he makes it in these trials without me there to save him. I smile sweetly as the crowd roars with laughter, practically feeling Kai's eyes burning a hole into the back of my head. All right, last question. What do you expect to get out of the trials? My mouth opens, intending to spew out the practiced motto of the Purging Trials like everyone else had. Like I'm supposed to do. But when my eyes lock on the glass box above me, lock on the current and expected king, words fall out of my mouth before I can bite my tongue. The wrong words. Survival. I expect to survive this. I can feel thousands of eyes pinned on me. Tila manages a slow blink while wisps of teal hair blow across her face in the soft breeze. Finally, she clears her throat and stands stiffly to guide me down the stage. All right then, she tries to act natural as she says, "Show us what you can do." Now I'm blinking at her. How the hell am I supposed to do that? I look around the stadium as I say, "Why don't you choose a random person from the crowd, and I'll read them." What the plagues am I talking about? Tila smiles and nods, clearly happy to go do something. I watch as she climbs the steps out of the pit and begins walking down the rows of people, smiling and waving as she goes. After a few minutes of contemplation, she finally points to a young girl seated a few rows above. The poor girl looks concerningly confused, but cautiously stands before making her way down into the pit, guided by Tila. When she approaches me warily, I realize she can't be much older than I am. Her short brown hair, paired with the freckles splattering her face, grant her a constant look of innocence. I smile and reach out to take her hands, wanting to make a show of this. "Don't worry. I won't bite," I say softly when she takes a slight step back. I offer her what I hope is a warm smile, and with that, she slowly holds her tan hands out to me. Grasping them gently in my own, I quickly observe her before squeezing my eyes shut. I have everything I need. I think of the tarnished chain around her neck, paired with the faded, large ring hanging from it that was just barely visible behind the folds of her shirt. I'd kept my father's ring after he died too, only I wear mine on my thumb. I'm sensing grief. I squeeze her warm hands, taking a deep breath. "You lost a man that was very close to you a while ago." "Your father?" I open my eyes to see her mouth hanging open. "Yes," she says quietly, even with Tila's hand on her shoulder to amplify her voice. "Yes, he died 4 years ago. I'm so sorry for your loss. I know what it is like to lose a father." I keep my eyes locked on hers, though I desperately want to glare up at the king in his shiny box. A collective gasp echoes through the crowd, amazed that I could know such a personal detail. And they want more. Tila selects person after person to come down into the pit, each one more excited to be read than the last. I spout random and personal things about them, things that a stranger shouldn't know. "You just found out you are pregnant. Your father is a blacksmith. You stole the shoes you're wearing." Every time, both the person I read and the crowd above us are in awe. They gasp, clap, and cheer, a completely captivated audience. Plagues, if I knew people liked this so much, I would have charged for readings on the street. A lanky young man now stands before me, a grin lighting up his face as he stares down expectantly. Closing my eyes, I recall the faint ring of dirt clinging to the right knee of his pants as he walked towards me. That, combined with the subtle outline of a small box in his coat pocket and the happy glow on his face, I come to my conclusion in a matter of seconds. I'm sensing joy. Because I release one of his hands to press my fingers to my temple. "You just got engaged. Today." I open my eyes just in time to see his mouth fall open. "She's right. I just proposed less than 2 hours ago." He spins to face the crowd, a wide smile on his face as the audience goes wild. "Congratulations!" My shout is swallowed by the cheering crowd as he practically skips up the stairs to return to his seat. With that, I spin on my heel and head back to my chair, not waiting for another person to come striding down for me to read. "Here," Tila sweeps an arm behind her, gesturing to us, "are your contestants for the 6th ever Purging Trials." Her voice echoes across the stadium, only to be quickly drowned out by the crowd. The contestants around me stand, and I do the same. We wave and smile at the crowd, watching as they chant, stomp, and pump their fists in the air. I feel sick. I feel used. This is all a game to them. But if I want to stay alive, I have to play my part. I have to play them. Being a pawn in their game is the price I have to pay to survive. Make them believe I like this. And in turn, they will like me. So I straighten, holding my head a little higher as I smile a little brighter. I am no one's pawn. Blood clings to my hands, my clothes staining everything a sickening red. Torturing tends to be a messy occupation, and despite how many years of practice I've had, it never seems to get any easier or cleaner. Unlike Kit, who has been trained since childhood to be poised, just, and kingly, my training has consisted of more hands-on work. Battle strategies, assassinations, and the art of torture made up much of my education. And due to this unique and extensive training I've received, I am very good at what I do. Except, it seems, when it comes to the silencer cowering on the dungeon floor before me. It's been days. I've beaten this man to a bloody pulp, and what have I learned in return? Nothing. To say that I'm pissed would be an understatement. The only useful word I've gotten him to slip past his lips, besides the splitting screams and pleas, is what I'm assuming is his name. Micah. I sigh, crouching down to hover over his broken, bloody body. His long hair, matted with blood, falls into his deep brown eyes. They widen when they meet mine, making him look so young. He can't be more than a few years my senior. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, I say, deceptively soft. But I don't believe you're mute. I grab his jaw and pry it open to reveal the blood pooling in his mouth, over his tongue, staining his teeth scarlet. But I could easily make that happen. I could carve out your tongue. I drop his head to the stone floor and stand to leave, aware that I'm already late for dinner. Slamming the door to the cell behind me, I offer Damien a curt nod. He gives me a slow bow of his head in return before following me down the long hallway of cells. Our footsteps echo off the stone walls as we make our way up the stairs and into the bright, sun-filled hallway above the dungeons. I deftly head to the throne room, even while my mind wanders. The trials are quickly approaching with only 4 days separating us from the first deadly game. These past few days have followed the same routine of training, eating, talking, and torturing. And, well, toying with Paedyn. She's been my main source of entertainment as of late. She's entertaining, with her wit and stubbornness and obvious annoyance with me. Stop. I push thoughts of Paedyn from my mind as I stride through the large doors of the throne room. My hands find their way to my pockets. Casual, despite how very aware I am that my navy shirt splotched with blood does not quite fit the dress code for dinner. The servants have already brought food to the table, which everyone sitting around it is greedily enjoying. Heads turn when they hear my shoes on the polished floor, several pairs of eyes flicking from my face to the blood clinging onto my clothes. I ignore their stares, seeing that I was too tired to change and too hungry to care. Kai, glad you could make it. Father sounds peeved, per usual, as I take my seat. Honey, Mother says quietly, leaning towards me. You look a little, well, bloody. She cringes as her eyes roam over me, assessing her son. Occupational hazard, Mother. I give her a small smile, the sweet one I reserve for only her. She nods hesitantly before trying to relax back into her chair. I barely listen to the quiet chatter carrying on around me. I'm finishing the last of my beans when an incessant tapping has me looking up. Strands of Paedyn's silver hair fall around her face in loose curls, the rest of it tied back into a messy knot at the nape of her neck. Her eyes are pinned to her plate, her thumb and silver ring tapping a steady beat against the wooden table. And then those ocean eyes slide up to mine. I tip my head towards her drumming thumb. Is there something on your mind, Gray? She looks me over as if noticing my presence for the first time. Is there something on your shirt, Azur? Her eyes skim over my clothes before widening slightly. Is that blood? I'm sure I imagine the flash of worry on her face, the look of concern when she thinks it may be my own blood staining the shirt. Careful, darling. You almost look as if you care. I give her a lazy smile, and she gives me a lazy eye roll. My gaze snaps to Mother when her gentle voice cuts through my thoughts. I hope you all have begun pairing up for the first ball. I glance around the table. Only the 3 who haven't previously lived in the castle look slightly confused. Hira, Ace, and Paedyn haven't grown up watching these balls. Haven't even been to a ball. I envy them. As is tradition, Mother continues, the contestants will partner up for the balls that are held before each trial. And since there is an odd number of you, whoever does not have a partner will be paired with someone, don't worry. Her smile somehow grows wider as she says, So choose your date and get practicing your dance steps. Kit shifts beside me, and I see him quickly glance in Paedyn's direction. I run a hand through my hair before turning my attention back on my food, needing to focus on something. Since the girls outnumber the boys, it's likely that Kit will be paired with whoever doesn't have a partner. But that won't stop him from asking one of them if he wishes to. It's clear that Paedyn intrigues him. But even if Kit wasn't going to ask Paedyn to accompany him to the ball, which I don't doubt he will, she doesn't want me. I like a challenge. But she's made it abundantly clear on what she wishes us to be: competition, enemies. And more importantly, why isn't that what I want as well? I wake the next morning, drenched in sweat. This isn't uncommon, not with the nightmares that tend to haunt my sleep. But today is different. Today, it is bloody boiling outside. It's only dawn, and my room is already sticky with humidity. I roll out of bed and make my way to the bathroom, where I splash cool water over my already damp face. It doesn't take me long to get ready, begrudgingly pulling on a white cotton shirt before slipping out the door and there she is. She steps out of her room with her head down, quietly shutting the door before looking up and practically jumping at the sight of me. Plagues. Kai, don't scare me like that. I blink. It's the first time she's called me by my name, and I realize then that I could get used to the sound of it rolling off her tongue. She seems to notice what she said and clears her throat before beginning to walk down the hallway. Aren't you up early for a prince? She calls over her shoulder. What? No breakfast in bed? I catch up to her easily, taking about 3 strides before I'm walking beside her. If you're not getting breakfast in bed, neither am I. I'm just a regular contestant, remember? No longer a charming prince for the time being. You were never that to begin with. I chuckle as we turn the corner, spotting the kitchen looming just ahead. The smell of biscuits and eggs wafting from within is enough to make me change course. So, Paedyn begins. Probably the start of some snide comment that I'll never get the pleasure of hearing, because I grab her wrist and tug her towards the kitchen doors. I'm sure she is just as hungry as I am, and breakfast won't be served for nearly another hour. I'm doing us both a favor. Apparently, Paedyn doesn't share my sentiment. Her feet dig into the floor at the threshold of the kitchen doors, eyes darting between mine. What are you? She starts, giving me that murderous look I've already grown so familiar with. I press my finger to her lips lightly, and the words die in her throat. I suppose my job will forever be feeding you now, Gray. Her flustered expression has me laughing quietly before I hear the scuff of shoes, reluctantly drawing my gaze from her wide-eyed one. We've drawn quite the crowd. Several servants stand staring at us, taking in the scene before them. But they scuttle away swiftly, snickering as they try to make themselves look busy. Hello, ladies, I call, looking around the room at the blushing servants. I've brought a far more interesting guest today than Kit. I place a gentle hand on the small of Paedyn's back, prodding her forward. It's a question, a tentative test, an innocent inquiry. Is this okay? I briefly wonder if she's considering breaking my wrist, maybe contemplating placing a dagger to my throat. And then she relaxes, easing into my touch. An answer to my question without uttering a word. Yes. I guide her towards the center of the kitchen, where I've spotted Gale, currently hunched over the stove. Morning, Gale. She spins around, her face lighting up when she sees me. You look lovely as always. My mouth quirks as I hop up onto the counter and sit beside where she flips crispy pieces of bacon over the stove. You're such a kiss ass, Kai, she teases, lightly whipping a towel in my direction. Her eyes land on Paedyn, and she straightens, nodding curtly. Miss Paedyn, a pleasure. Please, Paedyn sighs with a small smile. No, miss. Just Paedyn. I can practically see Gale relax, probably thanking the plague that formalities aren't needed. Now, what is a sweet girl like you doing hanging around riffraff like him? Gale jabs a thumb in my direction while I snatch a strip of bacon from the pan behind her, turned back. I let out a low laugh. Oh, sweet isn't the word I would use to describe her, Gale. She held a knife to my throat only a few days ago. He deserved it, Paedyn says simply, shrugging slightly. Oh, I'm sure he did, Gale replies, grinning at her. I probably would have done the same. She glances at me, nodding towards Paedyn. I like this one. Paedyn tips her head back and laughs. My body goes still as I listen to the sound of it fill the kitchen. So warm, so bright. Then, too quickly, she collects herself, clears her throat, and turns towards me. So, you and Kit are close with Gale? My head tilts to the side as I peer down at her, my eyes never straying from hers as I say, inseparable, aren't we, Gale? A loud snort escapes the cook. Inseparable indeed. The princes won't leave me alone. Her eyes sparkle with pride when they meet mine. I'm the only reason the two of them aren't stick-thin. Ah, yes. I sigh. We have Gale's sticky buns to thank for fattening us up. After Gale gladly informed Paedyn of some rather embarrassing stories from my childhood, we talk casually, a regular routine for the cook and me. I ask about her son, stationed as a guard near the scorches, all while sneaking bits of food as she swats at my hands. My gaze snags on Paedyn, from where she watches me curiously, as though trying to puzzle me out. Funny, normally I'm the one giving her that look. I jump off the counter and give Gale a peck on the cheek. Don't miss me too much. Then I turn towards Paedyn, who's leaning casually against the counter, a small smile tugging at her lips. I take a slow step towards her. Her head tips up to look me in the eyes as I close the distance between us, so close I can smell the lingering scent of lavender on her skin. I reach around her back, fingers brushing her tank. Her breath hitches and I feel my lips tug upward. When she opens her mouth to tell me off, I pull my hand back slowly, holding an apple in front of her face. Always feeding you, remember? She stares at the fruit before snatching it from my hand, huffing in annoyance. And then she smiles, the dazzling action lighting up her face as she rubs the apple on my shirt, right above my heart. She takes a bite, her eyes locked with mine. And you said you weren't a gentleman. By the time we make it to the training grounds, I'm slicked with sweat once again. Almost in unison, several of us peel off our shirts, unable to bear the heat any longer. Kit and I set off jogging around the grounds at an easy pace. I watch as the contestants pair off to spar or go their separate ways to train. Andy is currently in the form of a red leopard, circling several sadies in one of the dirt training rings. Unsurprisingly, Braxton is on the ground doing push-ups, while Jax occupies himself by throwing rocks as far as he can, only to blink and catch them before they hit the ground. Finally, my traitorous eyes slide towards a flash of silver hair. She's beating on that padded tree per usual. She always does this. Her movements are quick, controlled, channeling an emotion I can't place. She spins suddenly, her arm raising before I see her wrist flick. I blink, and a knife sinks deep into a tree 10 yards away. Practiced. Purposeful. Precise. But I'm not the only one watching. Kit's gaze is locked on her, almost curiously. I clear my throat and pick up our pace. So, how are you feeling? Kit's head whips towards me. At the moment? Tired. I laugh at that, hitting him lightly in the stomach. Yeah, you're getting out of shape, Kitty. He shoves me at the mention of his childhood nickname. Well, I don't exactly have a reason I need to be in shape, do I? Though he says this jokingly, I don't miss the bitter edge in his voice. I sigh, already knowing what this is about. You know why you can't. I have no idea what you're talking about. Like hell you don't, I mutter. Kit, You're the next king of Ilya. We need you alive. The trials are no place for you." Shit. As soon as the words left my mouth, I knew they'd struck him like a physical blow. Is my own kingdom no place for me either? His laugh holds no humor. Hell, is anywhere outside of the castle not safe enough for the heir? Kit. I know. He cuts me off, taking a deep breath. I know our duties are different. They always will be. I just wish mine weren't so damn boring. With that, he shoots me a weak smile in an effort to lighten the mood. I watch him, waiting to see if he'll say what we both know he wants to. Waiting to see if he'll tell me that he feels trapped, that he feels like he's constantly trying to prove himself, that he wishes he were in the trials so he could do just that. But he says nothing of the sort. His smile a silent plea to return to just being brothers, and not the future king and his enforcer. So, for him, I force a grin onto my face. Well, at least I can count on your vote in the trials. The tension seems to melt from Kit's body, his smile displaying his emotions like it always has. He sighs in relief at the change in topic before saying, "Oh, I don't know that you can count on my vote after you all but called me fat a few minutes ago, Kai Pai. I hate that nickname, and the asshole knows it." So, I stick out my foot, sending Ilya's next king sprawling to the ground before he drags me with him. We finish off our laps, dripping in sweat as the sun beats down on us. I stretch quickly before heading into the ring with Kit. We dance around each other, using both our powers and bodies to fight. Falling into a familiar rhythm, I let myself mull over what Kit had said, losing myself in my thoughts. The world flips. No, I flip, and then I'm sprawled on my back, trying to suck air into my screaming lungs. Damn it. Lost my focus. Got you on the ground, Kai. Kit smiles down at me. Been a few years since that last happened, huh? I can tell he's about to continue gloating, so I don't give him the chance. My leg sweeps out, catching his ankles and sending him sprawling to the ground beside me. Don't get used to it, I say, resting my head on the ground and smiling up at the sky. Once he catches his breath, he's barking out a laugh. I should have seen that coming. He trails off as I reluctantly stand to my feet and lazily brush the dirt from my clothes before offering a hand to him. We go our separate ways, Kit to spar with an insisting Blair, while I head to the targets. I grab the thin knives from the rack beside me and flip one in my hand before flipping it through the air. Weapons, fighting, killing. This was what I was raised to do. This is why I'll be the enforcer and the one fighting in the trials, not Kit. I hear the pounding of fists and quiet panting a few yards to my left, where the padded trees border the training grounds. She's back at it. Once again, she's hammering blows into the tree. Or maybe she simply never stopped in the first place. She looks frustrated, angry, sloppy. Her punches are weaker, her form far less controlled. She's tired and her stance is suffering because of it. I mindlessly flip a knife in my hand, shaking my head at the sky for what I'm about to do. I send my blade cutting through the air towards the target before strolling over to her, coming from behind while she continues to strike the pads. I'm standing at her back now and she pivots in one swift move, sending an elbow flying towards my face. I barely have enough time to dodge before gripping her arm, halting it in the air. Her head whips around, strands of silver hair sticking to her face, now slick with sweat. My lips twitch into a smile. "You should keep practicing before you try to hit me," she snorts. "In case you've forgotten how I saved you, I know how to fight. I don't need to try to hit you, Prince." She tugs her arm out of my grip and turns back towards the tree, intently ignoring me. Well, that just won't do. With that form, you will need to try, Gray. Oh, really? I can't tell if she's amused or contemplating trying to hit me at this very moment. Maybe both. Yes, really. You're sloppy. It's not like you, I state, making her scoff. Once again, she turns back to the tree and begins throwing more punches, decidedly done with our conversation. Her knuckles are red, raw, and nearly bleeding. Why does she do this to herself? I shake my head, already knowing the answer. Because I've done it before. I've hit pads, walls, anything until blood dripped from my fists. All to find a release for the anger, the frustration that was pent up inside of me. And that is exactly what Paedyn is doing. She's still swinging too much with her arms, rather than using her whole body as momentum. She's typically very technical when it comes to fighting, making this especially unlike her. But she's tired and frustrated. And despite me knowing all this, I can't fight the urge to toy with her. I step even closer to her back and place my hands on her hips, twisting her body as she throws another punch. She jumps and stumbles into me, her head tipping back against my bare chest. Stop swinging with your arms and swing with your whole body, I say, bending my head so I'm close to her ear. She sucks in a breath when my hand sweeps over her abdomen, the whisper of my fingers dancing along her thin tank. Engage your core, Gray. Her chest heaves. Then she takes a step forward, the heat of her body leaving mine. My hands are still planted on her hips when she turns her head to shoot me an irritated look. She knows I'm right, and she hates it. She got lazy and didn't realize until now, too focused and frustrated to notice. The thought has me smiling down at her as she huffs, blowing a strand of hair out of her eyes before turning back towards the tree. Now, throw a punch, I murmur, leaning in to add correctly. Shockingly, she doesn't argue, likely realizing it won't do her any good. She squares her shoulders and bounces on the balls of her feet. Then she jabs, her fist flying towards the mat as I twist her hips in time with the punch. There's far more momentum behind it, and I can see how much stronger she's gotten in her short time here, with consistent meals and training. When her knuckles sink into the pad, the lean muscles in her back and arms are evident. Much better, I say dully, despite being impressed. After a moment that was most definitely too long, I finally drop my hands from her hips. Now, do it on your own. Just to make sure you were paying attention. She stills, facing the tree. And then there's a flash of silver hair as she swivels around, throwing a beautiful jab at my face. I almost don't dodge in time. Only years of fighting allow my reflexes to react so quickly. How was that? She says sweetly, flashing that startling smile at me. I huff out a laugh. What if I didn't duck, Gray? I knew you'd duck, Azar. She's close to my face now, a wicked smile curving her lips when she repeats the exact phrase I told her, after throwing a knife in her direction. Looks like someone is itching for a fight. My eyes flick up her body, taking my time, taking in her stance on the balls of her feet, her slightly raised hands, and every stitch of clothing clinging to her body in between. I've just been waiting for an excuse to punch that smirk off your face. She swings at me again, knowing I'll duck under it. She's toying with me. Wouldn't be the first time someone said that to me, I say as we circle each other. We've backed into a small opening between the targets and the weapons rack opposite them. I show her my palms, surrendering before the fight has even begun. You don't really want to do this, and neither do I. Especially because I wouldn't want to mess up that pretty face of yours, darling. She all but rolls her eyes at me. That's funny, because I won't hesitate to mess up your pretty face. I smirk. I knew you thought I was pretty. At that, she throws another punch at my face that I easily evade. We continue circling each other, slowly. Damp hair clings to my forehead, and I comb my fingers through it, pushing it off my sticky skin. You do know that I have 8 powers at my disposal right now, and any one of them could drop you. I grin as I say it, watching as her eyes narrow. I don't want to fight your power. I want to fight you. Just you. Her piercing gaze never leaves mine as she says it, even as the other elites turn their attention towards us, finding this fight far more interesting than their training. So, you just want me? No powers? Yes. I just want you. She breathes, annoyed with me. My mouth twists into a crooked grin. I knew you wanted me, Gray. And with that little comment, a high kick comes flying towards my face. I block it with my hands and push her leg down, once again surprised by her strength. Before I can take another breath, a beautiful jab heads for my face. This one intended to meet its mark, hard. I duck under it before grabbing her outstretched wrist and pulling her back against my chest as I twist her arm under her shoulder blade. You're going to have to do better than that, Gray, I whisper against her ear, smiling. She grunts and drives the elbow of her free arm into my stomach. The air whooshes out of my lungs, and she takes advantage of it. Pivoting, she swings her elbow high at my face, making my head snap to the side when it connects with my jaw. My grip on her arm loosens, and she spins out of my hold before throwing a right cross at the exact same spot on my jaw. Damn. I keep my head turned to the side, my tongue roaming over the inside of my cheek as my mouth begins to fill with blood. And then my gaze slowly slides to her. She's on the balls of her feet, hands still raised in a fighting stance as she stares at me. And then she smiles, momentarily distracting me. I laugh, deep and quiet, before spitting blood onto the ground. Much better, Gray. I smile as I circle her, my fists instinctively raising. I might actually need to fight back. Her smile slips before she's suddenly dropping to the ground and sweeping her leg in a wide arc, intending to knock me to the dirt. I jump over it swiftly, but she's back on her feet in a split second, throwing a combination of punches. She peppers me with a series of uppercuts, jabs, and hooks, but I stay on defense, blocking her fists. With her quick movements, she finally gets in a sharp blow to my stomach, stealing my breath away. Fine. If she wants me to fight, I'll fight. I won't hurt her. Badly. In fact, she's quite skilled, and despite my mocking, she is a fine fighter. But with my now bruising jaw and stomach, I'm done playing games. She ducks before my fist meets the air where her head was. Then she kicks out a leg, swinging it towards my ribs. I grab her ankle right before it connects with my side and yank her forward. She stumbles towards me, and I grip her thigh against my side with one hand, while the other lands a blow to her cheekbone. It was a softer hit, but still hard enough to make her head snap to the side. I let go of her leg at the same moment I wrap my foot behind her ankle, still planted on the ground, giving it a good tug. She falls, hard. Violent coughs shake her body as soon as her back hits the dirt, as she tries to suck air back into her lungs. I hover over her with a smile, assuming the match is over. Wrong. She kicks me in the groin. Hard. I double over, huffing out a pained laugh. Cheap shot, darling. Yes, but an effective one. She jumps to her feet, panting even with a sly smile. Her hands are up, covering her face, while the rest of her body is covered in dirt. And then we are trading off blows and blocks as we toy with one another. It's like a dance, and she is a fierce partner. But for whatever reason, I refuse to throw my whole weight behind the punches. I rein myself in, not enough to stop me from fighting back, but enough to keep her mostly unbroken. Though she is clearly not doing the same. She's hitting hard, striking relentlessly, wanting to hurt me. 1 minute we're flirting, and the next we're fighting, possibly even both at the same time. I can't seem to figure this vicious girl out. After minutes of blocking and landing blows, we are both panting in the unbearable heat. Sweat rolls down my brow and stings my eyes as the group surrounding us cheers and grunts each time one of us takes a hit. I strike her with a combination of punches, my uppercut finding its mark under her jaw and jerking her head up. I follow it with a lazy jab, which she dodges, grabbing my outstretched arm in one hand and my opposite shoulder in the other. Then she steps close to me, driving a knee into my stomach. But she's left the arm that is holding my shoulder open and exposed, so I take advantage of it. I use both hands to grab hold of her forearm and wrist before pivoting so my back is against her chest. Then I use my momentum to raise her off the ground, throwing her over my shoulder and onto the dirt with a thud. She's on her back, wheezing from the impact of the hard ground as I stare down at her, hoping she's finally given up. Wrong again. With surprising speed, she grips the back of my ankles with her hands and yanks with that strength of hers. Caught off guard, she manages to pull my feet from under me, sending the ground flying towards my back. She's up and on me in a second, practically jumping on top of my chest, placing her knees on either side of me. And then she cocks a bloody fist back, her smile triumphant. I take her in, bloody and straddling me. If it weren't for my current situation, I glance at her fist still posed to strike. This could be a lot more fun, I say quietly, looking her up and down before staring into those blue eyes as they widen. Her focus slips for a moment. Perfect. I grab her waist and flip us over. Now I'm on top of her, pinning her wrists into the dirt beside her head. She pants beneath me, glaring up into my face. She's covered in dirt, and I'm certain I look no different. A dark bruise is already beginning to blossom across her cheekbone, and blood leaks from her nose and mouth. Nicely done, Gray, I say, close to her face. She squirms in my hold, but it does nothing to loosen my grip. I have a few critiques. She stills, and I watch as a slow smile spreads across her lips. Seeing that you're the future enforcer, I wasn't sure if you were capable of showing mercy. Clearly, you are. I stare down at her, my face morphing into its cold mask at her words. Then she lifts her head off the ground so only mere inches separate us as she breathes. I know you went easy on me. Was it that obvious, or did her psychic abilities tell her that? My gaze roams over her face, snagging on the dirt and blood splattering her skin, concealing the faint dusting of freckles I know covers her nose. And what makes you think that? Her face inches impossibly closer, lashes fluttering, lips quirked into a smile, and dangerously close to my own. Her voice is breathy, barely audible as she whispers, "Because if you weren't going easy on me, I wouldn't be able to do this." I barely have enough time to be confused before she headbutts me. When the crown of her head meets my nose, I see stars. She breaks my hold on her wrists and uses both legs to push me off her. A cloud of dust surrounds me as I lay in the dirt, blinking away the throbbing pain. The hit was hard, but not hard enough to stop me from staggering to my feet and facing her, blood streaming from my broken nose. She doesn't waste a moment. Her arms are around my neck, her knee driving into my stomach again and again. Before I have time to react, she uses my bent leg as a step stool, throwing her own legs over my shoulders in one swift movement. Using her momentum and the limbs wrapped around me, she throws us both to the ground. I sprawl into the dirt while she rolls, wasting no time before pouncing on me. And then my arms are pinned under her knees once again. "How is my form, Prince?" She pants, lips bloody. "Any critiques now?" Her weight presses down on me and I huff out a laugh. "I have a few notes." "Likewise." Her hand flashes to her boot, sliding a thin blade from the worn leather. "For starters, I don't appreciate my opponents going easy on me." She gently drags the knife's tip across my cheekbone, tickling my skin. I smirk despite the blade she trails across my face, my gaze burning into hers. And then my eyes flick to the blood dribbling down her face, leaking from the several cuts and gashes I'd given her. Looks like I messed up your pretty face after all, despite my best efforts. Oh, this is nothing. She laughs breathlessly. You should see the damage I did to your pretty face. My lips quirk into a smile as I lift my head towards hers. Oh, darling, as long as you still think I'm pretty, I don't give a damn what I look like. Those blue eyes blink at me in shock before rolling at me in annoyance. With a huff, she shifts and stands to her feet. I follow, dusting the dirt from my body as she does the same. Before she can turn and leave, I say, "You're far more fun to spar with than Kit. We should do that again sometime." Her head tilts slightly to the side, her smile sly. "I'll never pass up the chance to kick your ass, Prince." And with that, she's striding away as I watch her retreating form. "Oh, and Kai?" she calls, her voice casual. And then I'm ducking. She spun, throwing the knife so suddenly that I barely had time to dodge, before it sank into the wooden target a few feet behind me. I don't want your mercy. Next time we fight, I can see her blue eyes smoldering from where I stand. Impress me. A low whistle sounds from the crowd. Kit, of course. Ignoring him, I shake my head, grinning at her as she turns away from me. Vicious, little thing indeed. I'm almost certain I'm not an ordinary. My power may actually be the ability to lie effortlessly. Lie about what I am, who I trust, and how happy I am to be here. Yes. The trials are a series of physical games, but they are just as deadly when it comes to the mental ones. I need to win over the people, convince them that I love these trials as much as they do. I want their votes to stay alive, but I need their votes if I want to win this bloody thing. I glance around the dinner table, taking in the stiff shoulders and clipped conversation. The tension in the room is nearly suffocating, choking us into an awkward silence filled mostly with chewing. It's safe to say that we've become antsy as of late. So much so that a fight broke out between Ace and Braxton in the training yard, one that the former unsurprisingly initiated. I can't imagine what Ace must have done to crack Braxton's patient composure, but the brawl took nearly 4 Imperials to break up, all but piling on top of the 2 contestants. My eyes slide over my opponents slowly, stopping on the green gaze already staring at me. I suck in a breath, steeling myself against the rush of rage I feel every time I look at the king. No, not the king. Kit stares back at me with eyes so like his father's that I have to blink the image of the king away, forcing myself to focus on the boy in front of me instead. His smile is warm, his eyes wandering over my face. I return the action before quickly looking away, desperate to avoid his gaze as my eyes crash into a familiar pair. I'm suddenly swallowed in the storm that is his steely gray gaze framed by dark lashes. Kai tilts his head slightly, smiling at me in a way that has me spinning the ring on my thumb nervously. I hope he's losing his mind, trying to puzzle me out like I am him. Kai's gaze flicks to my thumb and the ring I'm now spinning on it. There's a glint in his eyes when he leans across the table towards me. Something making you nervous, Gray? Plagues, how can one person be so equally infuriating and infatuating? And what would give you the impression that I'm nervous? He hums, running a hand over his rough jaw. Should I start with the fact that you're spinning that ring, or the more obvious one being that you're clutching a knife? I blink at him before looking down. There is, in fact, a steak knife gripped in my fist, though I'm not sure when it found its way there. I stare at it, huffing out a laugh before uncurling my fingers from the handle. When my gaze finally meets his, it's searching, softer than before. And annoyingly enough, I'm mirroring that same look he's giving me, though we are seeing very different things. I see a boy who is confusing and captivating, cocky and calculating. But with every new detail I discover about him, the less I think I know. He has a soft spot only for those he loves dearly. That much is clear. But he's built walls, guarded himself, slipped on masks, making him annoyingly difficult to decipher. My mind wanders to our fight, to the feel of his hands on me, steady and strong. Watching him fight is like watching a dancer, one who feels the music in their soul, their very bones. He was born for battle, raised to kill, and I need to remember that. I'm jolted from my thoughts when a servant reaches to grab my plate. Out of pure instinct, my fingers itch to snatch a roll or two before they are whisked away. I'm still not used to having regular, let alone nourishing meals every day. And I find myself constantly fighting my thieving instincts when they scream at me to grab whatever food I can get my hands on. Chairs scrape against the marble floor as those around me stand to leave. An airy, delicate voice calls out over the commotion, and we all stop to turn towards the sound. The queen has her hands folded neatly in front of her, clasped over her pristine navy gown, shimmering in the setting sunlight. She smiles at us, and the twinkle in her eyes reminds me vaguely of Kai. Only a few more days until the first ball. Ladies, I trust you all have selected a gown, or you've spoken to your maids about having one prepared. I have most definitely done neither of those things yet. Oh, and don't forget to be practicing your dancing, the queen adds with a smile. I trust you'll want to make a good impression on the people. I'll definitely make an impression. She dismisses us with a nod, and I head swiftly for the door, intending to slip back to my room and seek Ellie's counsel on my gown. Paedyn. My feet falter, slowing me to a stop. The warmth in that voice and the use of my name tell me it's not Kai behind me. No, it's his brother. I've turned on my heel and am now watching Kit stroll towards me, his blonde hair messy and his smile charming. I swallow when he steps close to me, when he looks at me with those emerald eyes he shares with a murderer. Hey, he says warmly, mind if I walk you to your room? Yes. Not at all, I hear myself say through the teeth I'm flashing at him. We start walking down the hall, heading for the contestants' wing of the castle. I have yet to congratulate you on your interview, he says with a pinch of pride in his voice. Didn't I say you'd do just fine? I think back to the interviews when I'd managed to make a mess of the one thing I was expected to say. Survival. I expect to survive this. I almost laugh at the thought. Well, it's good to know that the future king won't have my head for screwing up his kingdom's motto. I bite my tongue, but it's too late to stop the words that have already tumbled from my mouth. He laughs. The sound is rich, flooding me with relief. He rubs a hand behind his neck, still chuckling as he says, Actually, that was my favorite part. I throw him a bemused look. Was it now? Yes. The laughter leaves his voice when he stops to look at me, halting us in the middle of the hallway. It was the most real thing anyone's ever said in those interviews. I search his face, trying to ignore the flash of his father I see. You mean it was the stupidest thing anyone's ever said in those interviews? His warm chuckle is echoing off the walls once again. Perhaps. He pauses, peering down at me. But if it makes you feel any better, I don't think you were wrong when you said you expected to survive this. And I admire you for voicing how you truly feel. I'm so shocked by the sincerity in his words that I huff out a laugh. Then you must admire me often because I tend to speak my mind far more than I should. I do admire you often. His eyes seem to speak those 5 words as they search mine, voicing something he never intended to. And it's the first time that I can meet his gaze and not see the king gazing back at me. Clearing my throat, I turn and continue heading down the hallway again. Kit is by my side when we come to a halt in front of my room, and I'm already pushing open the door as I say, "Thank you for walking with me." I pause to give him a small smile over my shoulder. Now I can say I've been escorted by the future king. I'm stepping through the doorframe when words leave him in a rush. Yes, and if you'll let me, I'll do it again. I spin around, finding him suddenly right behind me. His face splits into a smile that seems almost too shy to be worn by a royal. Miss Gray, will you be my partner to balls? I nearly choke on the next breath I suck in. And yet, instead of answering his question, a pointless one of my own falls from my lips with a breathy laugh. Since when have I been Miss Gray? A sly smile replaces his shy one, reminding me briefly of his brother. Since you started referring to me as the future king. And you don't like that? Me calling you the future king, that is. My curiosity forces the question from my mouth, since I assumed he was quite attached to the title and the power accompanying it. I'd rather not be called by a title I haven't earned or lived up to yet, he says simply. That's why I called you the future king. He smiles, content to let the silence stretch between us before he finally says, You never answered my question, Miss Gray. I hear the offer in his voice, see the silent question in those eyes I keep avoiding. Say yes to being his partner, and we will simply be Kit and Paedyn. Say no, and the titles remain. Say yes, and I play the part. Say no, and I pass up the opportunity to please the people. The thought of hanging off the future king's arm and looking up at the similar face of my father's killer isn't personally pleasant, but it would be for the people of Ilya. I would undeniably have their attention, a terrifying yet tempting thought. A smile lifts my lips at the image of a former slummer and future ruler hand in hand. The perfect picture of polar opposites. The most powerful man paired with the most powerless woman. It would be an honor to be your partner, Kit, I say softly, smiling slightly. Play the part. Kit chuckles, sounding relieved. I was hoping you would say that, Paedyn. Ellie, help. Please. I'm staring at my wardrobe, driving myself mad looking at all the colors and styles of gowns hanging inside. Which one should I wear for the ball? I need to make a good impression. Yes, you do, and you won't with one of those dresses. Ellie cuts me off, laughing softly. I tip my head back and groan. What's wrong with one of these? I gesture to the multiple dazzling dresses at my disposal. Those, she points at the wardrobe, are no ball gowns. Though you'd certainly make an impression if you wore one of them. Just not a good one. So, what now? I can't keep the irritation from bubbling out of me. Clearly Ellie noticed, because she says softly, We'll need to have a dress made for you. Immediately. I know several excellent seamstresses who could fix you up a beautiful gown in no time. You'll just need to pick out the style and shade of green. Apparently, it is common knowledge that the women tend to wear green gowns to these balls, seeing that emerald is Ilya's kingdom color. It isn't a set rule, but something everyone simply does. Typical. Tradition. Tiresome. Ellie carries on about the seamstresses she knows, how wonderful their work is. And then it hits me. I know a seamstress, lived with one. I'm suddenly crushed by the weight of what I've done. No, what I haven't done. Adana. The promise I made to her rings in my head, a reminder of how I'd forgotten about her. I vowed to visit her, and yet only remembered to do so as soon as it was convenient for me. I'm gripped by guilt, nearly choking from its tight grasp around my throat. I swallow, silently cursing myself for my selfishness. But this wouldn't be the first time I've been selfish when it comes to Adina. I was selfish the night she found me on the roof of a shop 2 years ago, hurt and hysterical, and hoping for someone to just understand. The rain rolled down my face as I studied the stars, mingling with my tears and stinging the fresh cuts I'd received from an imperial that morning. Adina pulled herself over the edge of the roof before breathlessly telling me how she was certain she'd find me up there, just as she'd been certain to never again be scaling a shop. but her smile slipped when her eyes slid to me, shaking in the streaming rain. Hugging my knees, I was tired. Tired of trying to be something I wasn't while no one knew what I was. So I decided to study the sky that night, spotting similarities between us. I was lonely in a way that I imagined the stars to be, observed by everyone, yet too far to truly be seen. And for once, I wanted to be seen by someone. It was selfish of me to tell Adina about my past, present, and everything in between. Just knowing about what I am puts her in danger, and yet we've only grown closer despite that. She believed me. She listened as the truth spilled from me in a sob, stayed with me even after knowing what I am. And I've never been more relieved about a moment of weakness. Ellie, I say slowly, deliberately, what if I know of a seamstress? She thinks for a moment before answering with a shrug. That would be fine. Did you meet someone here? In the palace? No, she's from Lute. Ellie gives me a skeptical look, but I barrel on. She's incredible. I can guarantee she would make me the finest dress Elia's ever seen. Well, I suppose I could talk to Lenny about escorting you there to get her. She quickly adds, as long as he is allowed to. My brows knit together. Get her? Oh, yes. If you get clearance to go, she'll come back with you and be hired here as your personal seamstress until the trials are over. Or until... She trails off. The rest of her words are drowned out by the blood pounding in my ears, and my heart is racing so quickly, I feel as though I'm in the middle of a fight. Adina is going to live here. With me. She'll be fed and paid. I'll get to see her. She'll be safe. Relief washes over me, feebly attempting to replace the guilt I still feel. Ellie promises she'll speak to Lenny about taking me to Lute before saying goodnight and slipping out the door. I flop onto my bed, staring up at the intricate molding on the ceiling. I'm not sure how long I lay there, letting the hope and happiness wash over me at the thought of seeing Adina safe and sound. And then a light knock at the door has my thoughts shattering. It must be nearly midnight, so who the plagues is that? I grip the handle of my dagger and slide it out from beneath my pillow, holding it loosely at my side as I pad across the floor. When I swing open the door, my eyes meet the pair of gray ones on the other side. Kai's gaze drops to the dagger in my hand before returning to my face, lingering on my bruised cheekbone and split lip that he so generously gave me in our fight this morning. My pride wouldn't allow the healers to tend to my injuries, and unsurprisingly, the prince seemed to have the same problem. Faint bruises have bloomed across his jaw, a reminder of each blow I landed. Do you plan on pressing that to my throat again? Kai's lips twitch upwards as he inclines his head toward the dagger clutched in my fist. Don't tempt me, I say, running my fingers across the smooth, flat edge of the blade. Here for a rematch? He shoves his hands into the pockets of his slim, dark pants before crossing his ankles and leaning against the doorframe. Don't tempt me. Ebony hair falls over his forehead, making his gray eyes pop against the inky waves. It's clear he hasn't shaved, leaving a shadow of stubble covering his sharp jaw, only emphasized by the darkening bruises I left there. What do you want, Azur? Missed you too, Gray, Kai says, casually picking something from his distractingly thin shirt. Then his gaze snaps to mine, his long lashes in total contrast with his light eyes. I'm here for your lesson. I scoff. I'm sorry, my what? Your lesson. He cocks his head to the side, amusingly puzzled. You're psychic. Did you not sense this was coming? That's not how it works. And you know it, I say, my tone a combination of irritation and confusion. What are you talking? So, you were really going to go to the ball and step all over my brother's toes then? He huffs out a laugh. You are just full of surprises, aren't you? No, I wouldn't step all over his toes. maybe trip over my own butt. I trail off, watching his grin grow. His dimple mocks me, tempting me to use the dagger waiting patiently in my palm. And then his words finally sink in. Dance lessons? That is why you're here? I let out a breathy laugh, thinking he must be joking. Took you long enough. He pushes off the doorframe, taking a step closer. Come on, we don't have all night. Then he smirks. Unless you want us to be out all night. I don't budge. Nope. No way. I don't want or need your help. I give him a mocking smile. But it's good to know that you are always so eager to offer it. I grab the edge of my door and begin shutting it on him when he wedges a shiny shoe into my room. He easily pries the door open, his strong arms pushing it back despite my best efforts. With his hand still flat on the wood, he leans in close enough to murmur, just like always, you're too stubborn to admit that you need my help. What I need is for you to get out of my room. I'm smiling at him, but it's all teeth. And yet, with every word that says otherwise, I know he's right. I know I should take him up on his offer and practice to prevent making a fool out of myself beside the future king. But I don't like that he can hold this over my head. Don't like that he would be helping me. Again, what you need and what you want are two very different things. The scent of pine washes over me when he ducks his head close to mine, forcing me to meet his gaze. Come on, Gray, you're smarter than this. You know that you need to make a good impression at this ball. And next to my brother, there will be a lot more eyes on you than there already normally are. It's like he read my thoughts, summed them up, and spit them back at me. I glare at him. I know he's right, and he knows it too. He must see the fight leave my eyes because a smile twists his lips. Good to see you've come to your senses. Let's go then. I brush past his shoulder with my head held high. I chose to do this, not him. And he needs to remember that. Where are we going? I ask as he begins leading me down the hallway. At the end of it, we climb a wide spiral staircase draped in velvet, emerald carpet. The shadow of a smile settles on his face, somewhere with enough room for you to fall all over the place. When we reach the top of the stairs, I'm led down a wide hallway lined with paintings and pearly molding clinging to the walls and ceiling. My eyes sweep over the thin layer of dust covering the frames littering the wall. It has been a while since anyone's been up here. This floor happens to be one of the few that I haven't yet explored, seeing that I've crept out of my room multiple times in the dead of night to learn the layout of the castle and its possible exit. Call it my personality or paranoia, but being unaware of my surroundings scares me nearly as much as the trials. Since Lenny doesn't guard my door, I can't resist the urge to snoop. In fact, I don't see my Imperial much at all, and surprisingly, the thought sends a sudden jolt of sadness through me. I'm shocked by how much I genuinely enjoy his company, and even more shocked by the fact that I would think such things about an Imperial. An uneven rug catches my foot, sending the floor flying towards my face. I'm about to sprawl onto the spiral-patterned rug when an arm slides around my middle, firm and feeling annoyingly familiar. There's that clumsy footwork we're trying to rid you of, Kai says, the smirk evident in his voice. He sets me on my feet, steadying me with a hand that I push away, flustered and feeling the need to put some space between us. He holds his hands up and takes a mocking step back before turning to head down the hall once again. As we continue walking, the question I've been waiting to ask finally slips past my lips. Why are you doing this? Kai halts in front of me. He turns slowly, looking almost amused by the question. It's simple, really. You're attending this ball with my brother, and he needs to look the best he is able. I study his face, stare as a sliver of his mask cracks, displaying all the love and devotion for his brother, all the lengths he is willing to go for him. It's as if he has a duty to fulfill, as if he is already the enforcer, and this is far bigger than just stopping me from stepping on his brother's toes. And then his mask is suddenly back up, and I'm staring at that cool face once again, void of the emotion once there. When I can't think of a retort, I begin walking instead. We make a right down a smaller corridor and head to the very last door on the left. He grips the handle and swings it open, revealing a bedroom beyond, lit only by the moonlight streaming through the window. If I thought my room was magnificent, it pales in comparison to this. It's easily twice the size of my own, making it seem more like a house than a single bedroom. Though it's filled with a 4-poster bed, dresser, and a desk, just as mine is, this room seems lived in. The shelf is overflowing, books stacked at odd angles to make them fit. Several of their worn covers tell me they consist of strategy, combat, and poetry. Interesting. Everything filling the room is nicer than my own, yet used and worn. This is his room, his real room. The desk is covered in dark ink stains, and suits of armor are piled in the corner. My eyes scan over the large slices covering the posts of the bed where chunks of dark wood are missing. Sword slashes. He's taken a blunt sword to the bedposts, multiple times. I suppose that is better than taking a sword to a human, though I'm sure he does that as well. My eyes finally flick back to Kai. He's leaning against the doorframe, watching me curiously as I stand in the middle of his room. Though I don't remember walking so far into it. I nod my head towards the chipped wooden posts of his massive bed, not knowing what to say under his stare. Interesting way to relieve stress. So is punching a pad till your fists bleed? He gives me a faint smile as he strolls across the room to his desk, hands in pockets, before he begins fiddling with the contraption on top of it, one that I recognize. Father had a record player, one with a wide golden horn I used to stick my head into as a child. He made decent money as the respected healer in the slums, but the record player was still the nicest thing we owned. Years ago, he used to plop my feet on top of his so we could dance around the kitchen. Well, he would dance. I was just along for the ride. But he never got the chance to truly teach me how to dance without literally stepping on anyone's feet. The crackling of the needle hitting a record is familiar, though the sound of the smooth waltz that follows is not. Kai turns around, casually unbuttoning half his shirt and sending my eyes searching for anything to stare at other than his tanned chest and swirling tattoo. And then he's suddenly before me, surveying me from head to toe with a slight smile that displays the deeper dimple on his right cheek. His stare is like a caress, and he takes his time. I refuse to squirm under that piercing gaze, knowing how he would love to watch me fidget. Not wanting to be outdone, I drag my eyes over his strong facial features and even stronger body beneath. Everything about him is lethal. That smile, those eyes, that cunning mind of his. Are you sure you'll be able to focus on dancing? Or will I be too much of a distraction, darling? His words startle me, and my eyes shoot back to his. I huff. I think I'll manage. Thanks. He gives me a doubtful look. I guess we will find out, won't we? I expect him to reach out and pull me into a dance, and the thought has my heart pounding, has me preparing to feel his hands on my body. But he doesn't move, doesn't try to close the distance between us. For now, you will start by just learning the steps to the average waltz, he says. Mostly because I don't want you stomping on my toes. With his hands still in his pockets, Kai steps in and out, side to side, showing me the basics. He's so graceful, so elegant, so natural. Fighting. Fighting is also a dance to him. I feel stiff and suddenly so unsure of myself. Even with his hands still in his pockets, Kai easily steps in time with me, though he doesn't dare get close enough to be trampled by my clumsy footing. I sigh, irritated with myself and the smirking prince in front of me. Relax. Kai murmurs from across me with more than a hint of humor in his voice. You're thinking too much. Don't calculate, just move with the music. I look up to see him already staring at me with a grin. Also, you do know this is a dance, correct? So, no fighting stance is necessary. Only then do I notice how tight and poised my body is, hands slightly raised as though readying to strike. I straighten and run a hand through the strands of hair falling out of my loose braid. I'm oddly nervous, and it's maddeningly annoying. This would be a lot easier if he weren't staring at me. Another waltz ends, replaced by a slow, mellow tune. My head is lowered, pieces of hair falling into my face as I watch my feet step in time with the music. A pressure at my waist makes me jump. Like a reflex, my hand twitches towards the knife, now sheathed under the folds of my dress, but a calloused hand catches my wrist. Knives are also not necessary for dancing, Kai says with a low laugh. Holding my gaze, his rough fingers slide slowly from my wrist to my palm before he folds his hand into mine, raising it into the air. But it's his other hand that holds my attention, the one that has settled comfortably against the small of my back, the one that is pulling me towards him. Through the thin fabric of the dress I threw on for dinner, I can feel the warmth of his palm seeping into my lower back. I stare at him as he pulls me close. It's not as if I didn't know this was bound to happen. I just wasn't expecting it so suddenly. He looks at me with an expectant expression before chuckling softly and sliding his hand from my back, making me feel suddenly cold in its absence. He grabs my other hand and lifts it to his shoulder, dropping my palm atop his thin shirt. I can feel every muscle shift beneath it as he returns his hand to my back, firmly flattening it against my dress. "Let's see what you learned," he says softly as his feet begin moving in time with the music. I fumble to follow, managing to mirror my steps with his. He leads easily, confidently guiding me through the dance. My eyes sweep across the room and down at my feet, counting with each step. The pressure on my back is suddenly gone when fingers catch my chin, tipping my head up. "You'll never learn if you keep watching your feet, Gray." Eyes on me. He smiles, returning his hand to my back. That shouldn't be too difficult. I roll my eyes at him, opening my mouth to make a remark, only to ask a question instead. "How did you know Kit asked me to the ball?" Kai's laugh is humorless, hollow. I'm no psychic, but it wasn't hard to put the pieces together. When I only stare at him, he sighs and continues. "I know my brother, and because of that, I knew he would ask you." "That was a terrible answer," I say simply. "And you're still a terrible dancer, so my work is far from finished." I snort. "He may have also mentioned that he asked you?" Another laugh escapes me before I can stop it, and I press my lips together to smother the sound. My eyes fall to his chest that is far too close, reminding me that we are far too close for competitors, for enemies in these trials. And yet, here I am, dancing with him in his bedroom, alone, in the dark. If it's even possible, I'm suddenly more rigid than I was before. Kai feels me stiffen in his hold and leans impossibly closer. "You're as stiff as a board, Gray. Loosen up." Not helping. I try and fail to melt into his embrace like a dance partner should. I'm hopeless, hopelessly in over my head. But the prince doesn't give up so easily. No. He wraps his arm fully around my waist and tugs me to him. I drag my feet, not wanting to close the little distance left between us. A maddening dimple peeks out at me, barely visible in the dim light. "So, what have we learned today?" he asks, annoyingly amused as ever. 1, daggers are not needed for dancing, and 2, you actually have to be close to your partner during the dance. And shockingly, you seem to be struggling more with the latter. Would you rather I struggle with the first and put a dagger to your throat? I pause. Again. So very predictable. He chuckles, the sound washing over me before he mutters. Always so vicious and eager to stab me. He is very close to me. Too close to me. And it's because I'm so distracted by that fact that my foot lands on top of his, and I stumble forward to collide with his solid frame. Both of his hands wrap around my waist, steadying me before I regain my senses and push away from him. A deep laugh rumbles from his chest, paired with a genuine smile, one that I've only ever seen him wear around his brother. Lethal. How can a fighter have such poor footwork? His eyes dance between mine. You are just full of surprises. Well, surprise? I'm done with this lesson, I say flatly, turning out of his grasp. My back is to him when he snatches my wrist and whips me around, pulling me back. But you still owe me one more dance. His wavy hair tumbles over his brow, the look in his eyes practically begging me to play with him. Fine, I say, playing along. Another dance for the answer to a question. His eyebrows raise. Is that a bribe, Gray? Those are my terms. Take it or leave it, Prince. His only response is a low chuckle. He turns his head away from me, thinking before he finally meets my gaze. Slowly, he raises my hand back into the air and rests his other hand comfortably onto the small of my back once again. Deal. Another slow waltz begins, occupying me with the music and steps, drowning me in the dance. When I can't seem to ignore the feel of his eyes watching me so intently, I finally meet his gaze. All right, what is it you're dying to know? Kai asks, leading me through the dance. I have no idea. He looks at me, through me, waiting for an answer. His gray eyes are like chips of ice, shards of glass. Like both, his gaze is pointed and piercing, cold yet captivating, beautiful in the way only deadly things can be. And just like that, I suddenly can't think of a single thing I want to ask him. I rack my brain for a question only to blurt out the first thing that comes to mind. Do you wish it was you? He blinks, dark lashes fluttering. Do you wish you were the future king of Ilya? The heir? It's not at all the question I thought I would be asking, but here we are. No, he says simply, holding my gaze. I raise my brows in a silent question. When he doesn't continue, I say, that's it? No. You got your answer, and I got my dance. That was the deal, darling. I can barely breathe. Adena's thin arms are wrapped so tightly around my neck that I'm beginning to see spots. She screamed and squealed when she spotted me waiting by the fort. My best friend, my literal partner in crime. Safe and sound, beautiful and bubbly as ever. Lenny arrived at my room early this morning, ready to take me into loot and retrieve my new seamstress. Apparently, he had gotten approval to do so, though I was too excited to bother asking for details. I may have even squealed myself. I'm going to be your what? Adena squeaks. I sigh, though it comes out sounding more like a laugh. My personal seamstress. I've filled her in on the details about 3 times now. I mean, unless you don't want the job. Are you crazy? Of course I want the job, Paedyn. She's practically skipping as we make our way to the coach, waiting at the far end of loot. I survey the market and wide alley before me. My home looks just as dull and dreary as it did when I left it. I let the sound of curses and haggling, the scent of fish and spices wash over me. All familiar. All the same. Lenny opens the door of the coach, and both Adena and I settle in before we are rumbling up the uneven cobblestone street, heading for the palace. I can't believe this is happening, Adena says in awe as she looks out the tiny window. She turns back to me, taking in the casual dress Ellie forced me into with wide eyes. I can't believe this. She looks from my face to the dress before snatching up the hem of the skirt and inspecting it. Don't get used to. This. I gesture to the dress. I typically wear pants during the day, but Ellie insisted I wear a dress to make a good impression on the people who saw me at Loot. And there certainly were a lot of people. Despite how early it was, the marketplace was teeming with men, women, and children, all gawking at me as I passed. I'm not sure what impression I made on them, but I certainly made one nonetheless. It sounds like Ellie and I will get along perfectly, Adina says, her smile bright. Oh, I'm sure you will. I laugh before continuing, and you will be paid, fed, and have a real bed to sleep in at night. I'm told there is a sewing room where you will spend most of your time, filled with every type of fabric you could ever dream of. Adana's eyes go glossy at the thought. Heaven. I'll be in heaven. I fill her in on everything. The training, the interviews, the contestants. She does the same, telling me of her time in Loot while I've been gone. I was beginning to think you forgot about me, Adana says with a laugh, dismissing the idea. And now, here you are, taking me back with you. A wave of guilt slams into me, threatening to drown. I swallow before opening my mouth to plead for forgiveness, to tell her I'm sorry too. I could never forget about you, Adina. Never again. She beams while my heart beats wildly against my chest. She's so very good, and I am so very guilty. I'm weak for withholding the truth from her, but with each beat of my heart, I vow to never do it again. Oh, wait. Who are you going to the ball with? Adina's high-pitched question cuts through my confused thoughts. Of course Adina would know that detail of the trials, how we all have to pair up for the balls. She loves this sort of stuff. I run a hand through my hair, combing it out of my face. Well, I'm going with Kit. Adana blinks, and then she shrieks. Kit? You mean the air? She's practically hyperventilating, fanning herself with her hands. It's not a big deal, Adina. Except that I do need to look good, I say, trying to calm her down. Well then, you came to the right girl, she says confidently. Wow. Okay, you have to look really good then. She swipes at the curly bangs falling into her eyes. Well, there are several beautiful shades of green we could choose from. We could put you in an emerald or a sage. I hold a hand up, a smile curving my lips. Actually, I have a different color in mind. I'm standing in a sea of black. Black suit coats, black ties, black shoes. Like ink, the men filling the ballroom swirl around on the white marble floors. Words hastily scribbled on a piece of glossy parchment. Servants dance around the room, though they have no music to accompany them as they weave through the crowd. They make their laps, bringing wine, champagne, and extravagant finger foods on even more extravagant plates. Seeing that the trials are different this year, thanks to me and the testing of the future enforcer, it's no surprise that the balls would be out of the ordinary as well. Typically, the trials balls are just that, balls. They consist of far too many hours of dancing and tedious small talk, both of which require excessive amounts of alcohol to get through. But this trial's first ball begins with a banquet. Black-clad bodies dot the room, men of all ages milling about. That is, men of all ages who are either nobility, of royal blood, or have somehow managed to get an invite to the Purging Trials' first ball. After an hour of hopping between throngs of men, making idle conversation with both young and old, friend and foe, I'm restless and bored at best. Kit and I have retired to reside by one of the many beautiful tables bordering the ballroom, brimming with drinks. I've passed the time by admiring my favorite room of the castle, taking it in for the 100th time. Its marble columns and large ceiling-to-floor windows line the room, giving it an ethereal look. Chandeliers droop from the ceiling, dripping with diamonds and elegance. Two sets of emerald-padded staircases mirror each other as they descend to the marble floor from the balcony high above. Golden, detailed doors open onto the half-circle platform overlooking the ballroom floor, which is so shiny I can see my own bored reflection in it. I sip at my second glass of wine, wishing I had something stronger. Any minute now. The small orchestra seated in the far corner of the elegant ballroom strums to life just as the glistening doors at the top of the balcony swing open. A beautiful woman cocooned in silky emerald steps up to the railing and looks down at the floor beneath her. "Mother," she beams, practically glowing. Then she begins gracefully descending the staircase to her right with measured, light steps. Sometimes I forget that even she is a fighter with her ability to manipulate electricity that can easily be used in deadly ways if she wished. The click of her heels sounds against the marble floor as she makes her way across the ballroom. The men part, creating a path for her as she heads for my father seated at the far end of the room. He smiles, really smiles at her. It's a rare expression for him, one that he only seems to wear when she is around. He stands, meeting her in the middle of the room before taking her arm. The king looks around, eyeing the men eyeing him. Let the first ball of the Purging Trials begin. The men cheer as the king and queen walk together, talking and welcoming those they pass. And so it begins. Women, both young and old, begin filing through those golden doors, one at a time. As is tradition, the men always enter the ballroom first and wait for the women to arrive. In honor of the queen who appeared fashionably late to the ball, where she first met father, every eye on her as she made her entrance. Since then, every woman has been given the opportunity to make their arrival for all to watch and admire. Dozens of them descend the staircases, all varying in different shades of green. As soon as they reach the floor, their dates whisk them away and take a seat at one of the many tables that litter the far side of the ballroom. Kid and I watch the parade of women as we sip our wine, admiring from a distance. They come in no particular order, no ranking or status involved in who gets to walk through the door next. I watch as my cousin sweeps in, wearing a mint green dress that contrasts her wine-red hair. Andy smiles at Jax from where he waits for her at the bottom of the stairs, a goofy grin on his face. She pulls him toward the large table meant for the contestants, centered among the others to allow the guests a perfect view of us. A dinner and show. I watch them take a seat before turning my attention back to the balcony, finding the steady stream of women beginning to slow. I spot Hera and Ace making their way through the crowd, neither of them looking particularly happy to be paired with one another. My eyes dart back up to the doors when Sadie enters, her brown skin glistening against her light green dress as she walks down the steps to an awaiting Braxton. A shade of lilac catches my eye, revealing Blair standing at the top of the stairs, peering down from the railing. Forest green fabric hugs her waist, her figure, before billowing out at her feet. Her hair is pinned and twisted out of her face, a sly grin already spreading across it when she spots me. "Good luck, brother," Kit mutters. And I don't miss the amusement in his tone. After being cornered before dinner a few nights ago, Blair insisted we go to the ball together. And seeing that I didn't have a choice in the matter, a reluctant yes was the only answer I could give. I shove my wineglass into Kit's hand with an annoyed sigh. "Take care of that." I nod down to the cup he now clutches. "I'll definitely be needing it." Kit's deep laugh follows me as I make my way to the bottom of the stairs, meeting Blair there just in time. I hold out an arm to her, which she clutches greedily. "You look stunning, Blair," I say softly, because she does in a cold and sharp sort of way. "Why, thank you, Kai," she muses, her darkened lashes lowering as she takes in my attire. My hair, my face, as do you. I lead us to the table, now mostly filled with the contestants sitting stiffly around it. When I take the seat beside Jax, he shoots me that bright smile of his that never fails to make me return it. "Look at you, Jay," I say, surveying his crisp suit and dark pants that are actually long enough to cover his ankles for once. You can't even tell I whooped your ass in the ring this morning." I hear Andy snort on the other side of Jax before she leans in to add, "You're not the only one." Jax rolls his eyes at our teasing, but the grin never leaves his face. "Where's Kit?" "He's the only one of you who's nice to me." Andy presses a hand to her chest, feigning offense, while I don't even bother trying to deny that he's right. Instead, I simply say, "True, but you know I'm far more fun." Jax opens his mouth to respond, but it's a cold female voice I hear instead. "Are you?" "Because I'm bored." I slowly turn to face Blair, having forgotten she was even there. I'm a terrible date, though I suppose she signed up for this when she asked me to be her partner, so I don't waste my time feeling bad about it. "So sorry I'm not entertaining you, Blair." I hear Andy snort before I add, "How are you this evening?" She smiles, seemingly pleased that I'm providing her my undivided attention. And that is all she needs to begin complaining about the uncomfortable pins in her hair before going on to discuss the material of her gown, insisting I should feel how soft it is. Jax snickers beside me, through it all, unable to stifle his laugh each time I hum in agreement, or nod my head at words I'm not entirely listening to. But I'm snapped out of my bored daze when a goblet is set before me. "Thought you might want that back, brother." I turn my head to find Kit standing behind my chair before my eyes slide to her, shimmering beside him. She is every bit the silver savior. Shining, silver fabric clings to her body. Thin straps wrap over her shoulders, holding up the dress with its plunging neckline, revealing her tanned skin and sharp collarbones. It melds to her waist and hips like melted coins, reminding me of the ones she stole when we first met. Paedyn's kohl-lined lashes sweep over me as I take her in. Her hair is like a curtain covering her dress, making it difficult to tell where the silver strands end, and the shiny dress begins. Fabric fans out around her ankles, displaying a large slit sliding up the length of her leg, mirroring the one I tore in her dress that day of the interviews. And there, strapped to her thigh, is a silver dagger for all to see. I fight my smile at the sight of her deadly weapon paired with her dazzling attire, so lovely, yet so lethal. Every bit of her is draped in silver. Not green, not expected. Beautiful, bold, not blending in. A statement, a reminder of who she is and what she did. The women aren't necessarily required to wear green to these balls, and it seems Paedyn took advantage of that little detail. Her eyes briefly meet mine before Kit leads her to the other side of the table. And that's all it takes to have me downing my own drink and desperately wishing this night was over. My eyes flick up, meeting Paedyn's across the table where she's now sitting. She holds my gaze, only breaking it when Kit says something softly beside her, turning her attention from me and pinning those ocean eyes on him. I shamelessly watch them interact, not caring who sees me staring. Paedyn seems tense as they talk quietly, her eyes continually straying to the collar of his shirt, rather than meeting his gaze. I watch as she slowly spins that ring on her thumb, almost smiling at the sight of it paired with her gown. But she nods while Kit does the same, no doubt very aware of the dozens of eyes watching them from the surrounding tables. Servants begin pouring into the ballroom, carrying trays piled with steaming plates of food. It's not long before we are eating seasoned salmon and buttered asparagus in silence. The only sound the scraping of forks and the chattering of guests surrounding us. And I would have loved to keep it that way. Might have even enjoyed a ball for once if we could have sat there and let the silence swallow us. But instead, my date decides to open her mouth. "That's a lovely gown you're wearing, Paedyn." Blair's tone is mocking, her mouth curving into a smirk. I sigh, looking up from my plate to see Paedyn smiling slightly. "Why, thank you." Her eyes skim over Blair and her green attire. "And your dress is so very unique." she says, with a pointed look at the rest of the ballroom and the women wearing similar shades. Blair's eyes narrow. I don't know if you were taught this in the slums, so let me enlighten you. Ilya's kingdom color is green, not silver. I stiffen at the way she spat out the word slums, drawing even Sadie and Braxton from their quiet conversation to cast wary glances around the table. We all seem to be holding our breath, awaiting Paedyn's response. And she never seems to disappoint. After taking a slow sip from her glass, she meets Blair's burning gaze. And did living in the palace teach you how to be a bitch? Blair snaps. Before I can blink, the knife placed beside Paedyn's plate is now raised in front of her chest, its point aimed at her heart. The sight sends a shock of anger through me, but my voice is far cooler than my sudden rage as I say, "Easy, ladies." Borrowing the tell ability, I push the knife back down onto the table with a clatter while ignoring the glare Blair shoots me. I'm not normally the one breaking up fights, but let's not try to kill each other before the trials even start. Guests murmur around us, watching their contestants with eager expressions. I can't even begin to imagine how entertaining this must be for them, watching our feeble attempts to be civil with one another, when we will be anything but tomorrow. Ace laughs, the sound haughty and humorless. Is that what you intend to do, Kai? Kill us? When I finally deign to look at him, I don't miss the gleam in his eyes to accompany the challenge in his voice. I level him with a stare. I intend to win. As do the rest of us, Ace replies, before running a hand over his oiled hair, chuckling. Well, all of us except for Paedyn, who simply intends to survive. He's mocking her answer from the interviews. Hira squirms in her seat beside Ace, clearly as uncomfortable as the rest of the table. And what I'm about to say is going to make things a hell of a lot worse. Enough. Kit's voice cuts through the tension, turning all eyes on him. But he only has eyes for one person, one girl wearing the glittering dress beside him as he says, "Dance with me, will you?" Paedyn hesitates for only a moment before nodding. And then I'm staring after them as they stride onto the dance floor, where several other couples have begun spinning in time to the music. Blair is suddenly saying something to me, dragging me to my feet before dragging me onto the dance floor. I don't remember when we started dancing. Suddenly, she's in my arms, and we are spinning across the marble floor. The feel of her is foreign to me after the nights spent with Paedyn in my arms. Nights that I still haven't told Kit about. I was doing him a favor. My eyes wander across the dance floor, landing on my brother and the girl in his arms. I'm not wearing green, but I feel it nonetheless. Envy claws at me as I watch them step in time to the very waltz I led Paedyn through. Only last night, she looks elegant, enticing, entrancing. What the hell is wrong with me? I turn away from their spinning forms, angry with myself for feeling jealousy and possessiveness over the one girl who's made it clear that I shouldn't. So I distract myself. I dance with Blair and other beautiful women who sweep me onto the dance floor. I flirt and toy with them, focusing on the girls in front of me rather than the one dancing close by with my brother. I catch her watching me and our eyes lock, sparks dancing between us. She is the embodiment of a bad decision, the twin of danger and desire, the fine line between deadly and divine. And I can feel myself drowning.